Councillor Over will be joining the meeting at 11:15. We have apologies from Councillor Fuller. And before we begin, I would like to briefly set out the basis on which this meeting will operate. The new meetings regulations allow formal local government meetings to be held on a virtual basis without elected members being physically present together in the same place. In practical terms, this means that the Combined Authority Board and executive committees will hold virtual meetings on the dates agreed previously by the board at our annual meeting in June 2020. The virtual meetings will be held using Zoom meeting software. All notices and documents relating to virtual meetings will be published and circulated electronically. The conduct of virtual meetings will reflect as closely as possible the arrangements for physical meetings set out in the Combined Authority's Constitution. Voting will be dealt with by chair, asking for each voting member individually how they can wish to vote before the show and by show of hands. The press and public will be able to observe meetings in real time by using a link on the meeting webpage. Decision statements and minutes will be published in the normal way. These are temporary arrangements, and let's hope that they are temporary for not much longer, pending on relaxations of social distancing requirements. If we experience any technical difficulties, I will adjourn the meeting briefly while officers try to resolve these. If a board member loses connection, I will also call a short adjournment while we try to reconnect them. If this is not possible and this meeting remains quorate, we will continue. If we become inquorate, the meeting will be closed and rescheduled. We have received a large number of questions from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee this month. In order to keep us running smoothly with what is a very large agenda, the answers have been grouped together, and I would invite Councillor Dupre, the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, to try to gather together any follow-up questions she has where possible. Could I ask all board members to keep your microphones muted unless you wish to speak, because this will minimise background noise. Keep your video turned on throughout the meeting to demonstrate your presence and allow everyone to follow who is speaking. Use the raised hand function to indicate if you wish to speak. I'm delighted to be able to mention the success of AstraZeneca's work to produce a viable and economic vaccine against COVID-19. AstraZeneca is a major Cambridgeshire employer, and I welcome the news this represents for the health, well-being and economy of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and of course for the whole nation, indeed the world. Governance items. I will begin by calling the names of all members of the Combined Authority Board in alphabetical order to establish their presence for the record. So we will begin by asking presence of Austin Adams.
Present.
Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bowden.
Present.
Councillor Count.
Present.
Councillor Herbert.
Present.
Councillor Holditch.
Present.
And Councillor Smith.
Present.
And also our non-voting co-opted board member is Councillor Bisbee.
Present.
And members, does any board member or officer wish to declare any interest in relation to today's business? Okay, members and officers can also declare an interest at any point in the meeting. So we go on to item 1.2, which is the minutes of Monday the 30th of September 2020. We've been asked to approve the minutes. Any points on the minutes? And there are none, so I can assume that everybody is in favour and is happy to approve. And nobody's waving at me frantically saying not, so we will sign off the minutes. Thank you very much. There are no petitions or public questions at this time, and as I said earlier, we will have several questions from Overview and Scrutiny. Item 1.5 is the forward plan, which is published on the web and updated regularly. If there are any decisions on the forward plan which are allocated to the Executive Committee, but which members think should be dealt with by the Combined Authority Board, instead the board will need to take a view. Are there any committee decisions which members would want to be reserved for the board? Councillor Herbert.
Well, I'm not raising that, but I've got 2 points on the forward plan. The first of which is that you've called an emergency transport committee for the 7th of December. I'd appreciate if you could share what that the main recommendation and reason for it being an emergency is? And is it that it's to do with Greater Cambridge Partnership, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Herbert, the reason we are calling the meeting is because we had a technical issue in the last meeting that wasn't resolved. And we wish to discuss again the item on the potential northern route for the Cam Metro in advance of the Greater Cambridge Partnerships meeting in December. I think it's important that I have a steer from the Transport Committee before I go to that meeting. Councillor Herbert, we can't hear you.
Sorry, you may be wanting to steer the Transport Committee, Mayor. I had a second question, and there's quite a little revealing item which is scheduled for the next meeting of the Combined Authority Board, which talks about a large further loan on housing. Is this a further loan to East Cambridgeshire Council or to Larag Homes, or is it a completely new idea?
Well, perhaps I could bring in the Chief Executive on that. I'm not quite sure exactly which loan you're talking about.
Mayor, I don't have the detail of that item in front of me, so could I possibly come back to you in writing, Councillor Herbert, in relation to that?
Again, Councillor Herbert, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I'd appreciate if Mr. Thompson is on the call, if we could, if I could ask a question under the budget item later in the agenda, Mayor.
Well, there's absolutely nothing at all that could ever stop you asking a question, Councillor Herbert, and of course you're more than welcome to ask a question on any matter relating to the business of the Combined Authority throughout the agenda. Kim Sawyer, have you got any announcements before we move on with the plan?
In relation to the forward plan, if I might, Mayor, you will be aware that Councillor Count, who is here today, made the decision that he didn't want to continue with his portfolio for investment and finance. And therefore, the forward plan incorrectly represents his name at the moment against those items. So apologies to Councillor Count, but we weren't able to make those corrections before publication of the forward plan this month, but we will certainly ensure that those amendments are made going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we have the forward plan. Members, are you happy to approve the forward plan? But if you want me to go to a vote, then please indicate so. No, so we're happy to approve the forward plan. Thank you very much. Item 1.6 is the Combined Authority appointments for November 2020, and Appendix 1 sets out Constituent Council's nominations for their member and substitute member of the Employment Committee, and was published and circulated to all board members for information. Officers have asked the board to note a correction to the voting arrangements for this item. The vote required on recommendation D to nominate and appoint members and substitute members of the Employment Committee requires a simple majority rather than 2/3 majority stated in the report. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, members, and good morning again, Mayor. This paper covers Combined Authority Board and Committee appointments. Recommendation A to C is for noting. The board is asked to note the appointment by Cambridge City Council of Councillor Martin Smart as its substitute member on the Combined Authority Board for the remainder of the multi-municipal year. Recommendation B, the board is asked to note the appointment by Cambridge City Council of Councillor Mike Davey as one of its members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And lastly, the board is asked to note the appointment by Cambridge City Council of Councillor Mike Sargent as one of its substitute members on the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The monitoring officer has delegated authority to accept and approve these changes to membership, and that has taken place. There is one item on the report, 2.2, which states that the Councillor Kevin Price has resigned from his position as Cambridgeshire County Council substitute member of the Combined Authority, and that should actually read member of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Apologies to members for any confusion caused by the mistype. The final recommendation on the paper is in relation to the nominations and appointments of members and substitute members to the Employment Committee. Members will remember that the last Combined Authority Board meeting on the 30th of September, the board approved a revised version of Chapter 12 in relation to the Employment Committee. That chapter set out the number of members required for the committee, which is 8, including the mayor, and nominations have been received. Those nominations were published today. We're going to display that on screen for your ease of reference, members. The board is asked to appoint those members to the committee. And you will also note that Mayor Palmer is also the chair. Thank you, Mayor. There is nothing else to cover in relation to the content of the report.
Thank you, Rochelle. Any comments, please, members? Okay, I have no comments, so I'm moving the proposal recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not seeing anybody who is opposed, so we will unanimously support that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rochelle. Could you remove the, thank you very much. You've already done. So item 1.7 is the appointment of Chief Executive Officer of OneCam Limited. This item has been withdrawn, sadly, due to Mr. Hughes having accepted a counter offer from another major transport scheme. I will, however, take the question from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Dupre.
I apologise, Chair. I missed the last couple of sentences while I had to drop out and be rejoined as a participant in the meeting.
I'm quite happy to start there again. So unfortunately, we've withdrawn this item due to Mr. Hughes having accepted a counter offer from another major transport scheme. I will, however, take your question.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor. The question of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee was, can the process for the level of remuneration to be received by the Chief Executive of OneCam Limited be evidenced or justified?
Yeah, thank you. And the remuneration for the post of the Chief Executive Officer of OneCam Limited was established in consultation with the appointment of external executive search consultants. They have significant experience in the recruitment of chief executive officers, especially in relation to major infrastructure projects. At the final interview stage of the candidates selected, 3 of the 4 candidates had existing or last job salary and bonus packages significantly in excess of the maximum salary offered for the post. I don't know if you have any comeback on that, Councillor Dupre.
Not at the moment, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I'd just like to underline, of course, this is a very, very competitive sector. Mr. Hughes was one of 4 exceptional candidates that were interviewed, each one of them more than capable of carrying out the work that was necessary, in our opinion, or in the opinion of those present at the interview process. But even though the remuneration was significant, there are other transport schemes that are offering more, and that's a simple reality of the situation. So we will convene and we will reconsider. Item 2.1 is finance, and before we consider the reports, I would like to place on record my personal thanks to Councillor Count for his contribution to the Combined Authority's work during his time as lead member for investment and finance. Thank you, Councillor Count. The Budget Monitor update will be presented by John Alsop, who is our Chief Finance Officer. John.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report provides an update of the financial position and the forecast outturn position for both the revenue and capital budgets of the Combined Authority. And this is based on actual figures for the 6-month periods to the 30th of September 2020. So there's a summary revenue position which is shown in the table under paragraph 3. And the bottom right hand corner there, under forecast outturn variance, it shows that currently we are forecasting approximately a £2.9 million underspend for the year. The majority of that is due to the Care Sector Work Academy. We had a discussion about this at the last board meeting, but that is due to a change in project lifetime, which has been agreed by the funder. So though that underspend will be ring-fenced and carried forward. Other variances, there is additional income expected from through the AB grant, and that's to do with the government's skills recovery package. We've got one or two other underspends, one under the other employee costs relating to travel costs, the expected reduction in costs associated with that. And there is an overspend on the line which is other corporate budgets, and part of that is to do with the decrease in expected interest receivable on cash balances. In terms of the capital programme, again, that's summarised in the table under paragraph 4. Again, we're showing a £13.2 million favourable variance for the year. That is based on, or mainly due to some local growth funds where one grant recipient was drawing from the scheme, but that funding will then be repurposed. And then there is the impact of the under housing, the impact of one of the payments from central government going direct to Cambridge City Council. But I'm happy to take any questions on the rest of the report.
Okay, members, any questions? Councillor Herbert.
A couple of questions. I wanted to pursue that point that I had before, and I don't know whether Mr. Alsop or Mr. Thompson can advise, but there's talk in the item 42 in the forward plan is a proposed loan of up to £10 million in relation to housing. So I'd like to ask about that. I'd also like to ask from Mr. Alsop, what's the current position on the £100 million affordable housing funds, and where are we at in terms of the dialogue with MHCLG? Because it was reported previously that £45 million of that has now not been paid to the combined authority. So those are my two initial questions, and I've got, if I could just add while I'm talking, there's a section in the finance report about progressing works on the A10, and I just wanted to understand what is the shape of the funding that we're seeking in terms of making this happen, and does it split between the work on junctions as well as the work on dualling? Because I'm aware that the work on junctions scored higher in the outline business case and is a significantly smaller amount. So I'd just like to understand what is our bidding strategy and what is our expectation, whether or not we're going to get the funding that is being requested by the combined authority for the two parts of the work on the A10. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, well, before Mr. Alsop comes in, I will just update you on, as I was going to later, on the next stage of funding for the £100 million housing. I had a very positive meeting with the Minister, Luke Hall, last week, and we are awaiting final sign-off from the Minister. So that we hope will be sorted out in the next few days. Mr. Alsop, perhaps you could follow up on the further points, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Herbert. I noticed that Roger Thompson has joined us. I don't have the details of the £10 million loan which has been proposed on the forward plan, but obviously we have got very strict treasury management strategies which protect the combined authorities' funds in any event of a loan. We've obviously been through a number of these loans previously. The original loan, we went through a proof of concept process whereby we took advice from our Treasury advisors, and we will be doing the same due diligence for any loans that we enter into in future. I don't know if Roger would like to come in on the particulars of the loan in question.
Yes, sure. Councillor Herbert, thank you for the question. We're talking to several parties at the moment about prospective loan opportunities to add additional housing and affordable housing throughout the area. I suspect this item in January, if I'm being candid, will probably move back, in part because we still haven't had that formal confirmation about our funding position with MHCLG, and without that, I don't think we can suggest that any loans would come forward to the board. But those parties do include potentially in the future ECTC and LARA as their programs work out as well. Yeah.
Thank you for the answer, Mayor, from Mr. Thompson. I just wanted, it's always mystified me why so far all of these large loans have only gone to 2 recipients. And I just wanted to understand a bit more about the process, and also ask Mr. Thompson if this item can be brought to the leader strategy meeting so that we don't just land into a board meeting with a report a week before.
I personally have got no problem with an item coming to leader strategy, Councillor Herbert, in connection with our liaison with the markets. We have put lots of messages out there to our regional developers that there is the opportunity to apply for us for loans. We thoroughly encourage that. We have had some response from other potential borrowers, and they are parties that we are talking to in addition to LARA and ECTC.
Thanks for the answers.
Thank you. And as you know, Councillor Herbert, we discuss all of these issues both in leader strategy meetings and in housing committee and in combined authority. So there is no hint at all of anything being done without you, as you're well aware, having previous citing of it. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. So I might be reading this wrong, so my apologies if I am. Appendix 3 looks as if there's a substantial overcommitment both within business and skills and the housing capital programs. I wonder if Mr. Alsop could clarify that for me.
Just turning to Appendix 3. Sorry, yeah, so Appendix 3 is just a representation of the capital programme as it is in the MTFP. So on the left-hand side of the table, it gives a breakdown across the MTFP period for budgets which have been approved, and on the right-hand side of the table, it's subject to approval. So this was just this is a new table that we've introduced for this board meeting, just to give an indication of exactly what the total potential funding requirements might be for each of those projects. So it doesn't give an indication of actuals against budget, but it just gives a hopefully greater detail about for each project, the amounts that have been approved by the board and the amounts which are still subject to approval by the board.
Okay, sorry, I was losing some of that because the connection wasn't great. So there's potential for us to overcommit. If everything gets approved, there's potential for overspend. Is that what it's saying?
No. So the whole of the MTFP, which includes all of these projects, is completely affordable within the budget envelope that we've got. But this just demonstrates how much of each element of that medium-term financial plan line has been approved by the board and how much is still subject to approval by the board.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to address the questions that Councillor Herbert was putting forward about the loan scheme for the affordable housing and the £40 million element. And I think it's important, you know, the inference that people might take from his questioning is that there's somehow some sort of favouritism to two providers, and one of those providers is East Cambs Trading Company, which is the wholly owned company, wholly owned by the taxpayers of East Cambridgeshire, for the purposes of bringing forward housing development and delivering high quality affordable housing as well. So I think it's important just to say that the loan scheme is available and open to everybody, all applicants, all trading companies, all of the district councils, all of the developers out there. Everyone can come forward, and I don't think any inference should be taken for the fact that East Cambs Trading Company has got off its butt, to excuse my language, and put forward, you know, a number of applications and will continue to do so. And the reasons that we've done that is because, you know, we have suffered in East Cambridgeshire with, we currently hold our 5-year land supply, deliverability supply, but, you know, in the past we've suffered by not holding on to that because we've dished out planning permissions, I think some 5,000 odd, that developers are just not bringing forward, and we have no levers to force those developments to happen. And so a number of years ago, we took the situation into our own hands to decide to bring forward high quality development ourselves, and to focus, you know, on mixed schemes that include proper levels of affordable housing, so that we weren't in this constant battle of viability and lack of deliverability from other developers. And we're not, you know, and we're trying to ramp that up and deliver greater numbers. And Kennet Community Land Trust is an example of one of those. And we are very focused on quality development and infrastructure first. And we're trying to show developers what is possible through our schemes. And I think the loan scheme is highly commendable. You know, I commend Councillor Herbert and Cambridge City Council on, you know, the numbers of houses that it is delivering under its grant scheme. But we must remember that once that grant monies have run out, you know, that the pot is empty and you have to go seeking more funding. Obviously, the loan scheme is a revolving fund that pays back and interest. So, you know, it helps everybody in perpetuity. So I just wouldn't want any members of the public or anybody to be inferring from Councillor Herbert's question that there was anything wrong or any bias or anything incorrect going on. You know, everybody's able to put forward schemes, and the fact that East Cambs Trading Company has done so is to be commended.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bailey, for that clarification. I think the other point to make on Lara Homes is, of course, they are delivering homes in South Cambridgeshire as well. So this isn't about geographical area, it's about quality delivery. And of course, they are delivering, as are other developers, 100k homes, and the first 800k homes in Fordham have been allocated, and the first people move in before Christmas, as we know. Such a great scheme, the 100k home, that it's been taken up by the proposed candidate for Mayor of London, Sean Bailey, I notice. Councillor Herbert, have your hand up to answer anything that Councillor Bailey has said, or are you adding something new to?
No, I had my hand up before, so I'm not proposing to prolong the debate. I just hope that on this occasion that there is genuinely open options, because I don't think the combined authority will get that best value if it's just a put and shut proposal from people. I did mean to thank
Councillor Herbert, I think that is an extraordinary underhand allegation, and I'd have thought you'd have been slightly more professional than to suggest that, when you know exactly the processes that we go through and the amount of money we spent across the entire county.
Okay, well, I'm all I can say is the evidence is there, but
Councillor Herbert, what evidence and allegations are you actually saying? Because you're putting forward allegations and you're saying evidence is there, yet I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, Mayor, if I actually look at how we've allocated what is now £50 million, I can see some really good schemes. But I can also say, if you look at a scheme like the £25 million loan to East Cambridgeshire for the REF housing scheme, it doesn't really make, I mean, it doesn't make a ripple in terms of affordable housing compared to the 2000 housing scheme that was what we agreed. And it doesn't directly link to the housing strategy back in March 2017, which was used as the business case submitted to government, which said that over 40% of the affordable need was in South Cambridgeshire and over 20% of the affordable need was in Peterborough. So I just think that it would help me and help the public if there was a more open explanation of how the money has been loaned, and if there was clearer criteria. Can I just finish, Mayor? I won't be long. And also when we come to the Treasury management, that we just have clearer criteria. So if it's proposed to bring forward a further loan to either East Cambridgeshire Council or Lara Homes, which Mr. Thompson said is potentially on the cards, either in January or soon after, then we just need to be clear what the criteria is. And I do question, Mayor, even that I take the point that loans are a good idea, and I take the aspirations, and I have full support for the efforts that Councillor Bailey and East Cambridgeshire are making at Kennet and Hadnam, that we just need to be clear how the money is used. That's my point. I was actually putting my hand up for another point, but if you want to respond, I will then raise that separately, Mayor.
Okay, well, as you're fully aware, Councillor Herbert, I'll repeat, every scheme that we bring forward goes through Housing Committee, has gone through Board. Every scheme is analysed and discussed and given full clarity and full transparency, and you're fully aware of that. Their allegations don't actually hold water. The other point that we have that I must make to you, Councillor Herbert, is we have a 5-year deal to bring forward 2,000 affordable homes across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough by March of 2022. We have already allocated 1,900 homes already. So it is November of 2020, which gives us another, what, 13 months, 15 months or so to allocate 100 homes to hit our target. We'll of course massively exceed our target across the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. But as Councillor Bailey has rightly said, within that, we've also created a rolling fund to make sure that when schemes come forward that are exciting and are achievable, like the taking of completely empty derelict homes in Ely and renovating them and putting them on the market, and then getting the money back and being able to do similar schemes across the area, that we can do that. And it's sensible use of allocated funds. And it has proved, in my opinion, to be a massive success. And I would be very, very happy if there were other sites where there were homes that were standing derelict on other air bases or bases across the county to do the same, because it was a great scheme at the right time. And I'm very proud that the Combined Authority decided to do it. Where it is immaterial, in my opinion, but it's the right scheme. But yes, you can come back now.
Okay, I mean, I think Councillor Bailey wants to come in on this. My other point was different, Mayor.
Yeah, no, that's entirely fine.
Thank you. Yes, I did just want to address the issues. I mean, I don't recall Councillor Herbert having serious objections to the MOD housing site in Ely at the time that it came before the board. The fact of the matter is that the site was derelict, attracting antisocial behaviour. The homes had long been empty. They're high quality, well-built homes on a very attractive site. And the residents of East Cambridgeshire and Ely had long been wanting something to be done with that site. We had regularly contacted the MOD to try and bring that site back into desperately needed use for homes in Ely. It's a very high quality scheme, and of course it opened up the opportunity. Had any private developer, normal developer acquired that site, there would have been no affordable housing whatsoever out of the first phase, because, you know, it was existing homes being converted. as it is, we are able to deliver 15 affordable homes. That's what the business plan would withstand. But of course, it also opens up the phase 2 opportunity, which will deliver at least policy compliant levels of affordability, and I hope increased levels of affordable homes on that site. And you know, to try and dress it up after the fact that you somehow disagree with it. And the one thing that people need to understand is that the money comes down in phases. The loan funding is phased alongside the phase of deliver when the site is delivered. So, you know, it's not that all the money comes in one go. And that means that when Roger Thompson is dealing with the overall profile of the £40 million fund, that other schemes can come forward because there are phasing elements. So this is not precluding other schemes coming forward in any way, shape or form. And I think to try and pretend now that you were wholly against the scheme is just wrong. And I don't remember any wild opposition to the scheme when it came before the board, when everybody was in agreement that it was a good thing to be doing and that we should be doing it.
Councillor Herbert.
Point of personal explanation, Councillor Bailey was not a member of the board at the time. She has got no knowledge of my contribution at those meetings. I did not vote for this scheme, and it is in the minutes. Thanks to the fairly full minutes, Councillor Bailey, I suggest you read them and don't make allegations about my past behaviour which are completely unfounded, and I have been challenging on these issues all the way along, and I will continue to seek the best value for those loan funds. I urge you, Councillor Bailey, to read the minutes of the meeting late 2018 when Councillor Roberts, who was then the leader and deputy mayor, was part of the decision to approve the loan on the RAF homes.
Okay, Councillor Herbert, all right, well, I'd like to offer a clarification, and I apologise to Councillor Herbert that I've got that wrong. I sincerely apologise.
You are wrong, I'm afraid, on this occasion.
Well, I've offered my apology, and I note that he's in opposition to the redevelopment of the RAF site in Ely.
That is also wrong, Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Herbert, can we please perhaps try and stick to the agenda, and you've got another point you wanted to make.
I am sticking to the agenda, Mayor. I had a question to ask. My other question actually goes to a very low level of the pond in terms of issues, but I'd like to understand from Mr. Alsop what is the purpose of 2 accountants being added to the team, given that effectively we're plateauing, and when we come to look at the report later on devolution performance and quite a lot of achievements by the combined authority, I will then be asking what is our sort of medium-term strategy in terms of gaining extra funds. But I'd just like to understand from Mr. Alsop why we need 2 extra accountants. In completely separate, but as I'm speaking, I also would like to thank Councillor Count for his contribution, and also ask you, Mayor, whether you plan to appoint a successor, because I do think Councillor Count made a signally useful contribution along with others on this board, and has provided the members of the board with some really high quality insights as part of our decision making. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alsop, would you like to come back on that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Herbert. So I presume you're referring to the next agenda item in terms of the draft budget and medium-term financial plan, where we do talk about the staffing measures. So the reason why we've put a potential or a proposal to put in some additional resource in the finance team is that over the last year especially, the requirements of the team have increased in terms of complexity and in the volume of work that we are currently doing. We are now supporting a number of subsidiary companies to the combined authority, and there's also a lot of work in terms of other funding commitments, including work to do with the CAM. So all of the additional costs that we might incur as a result of boosting the team will be covered from recharges to either other funding streams or other organisations, and we will only recruit as long as that additional funding is available.
Okay, so thanks for that answer. I am completely reassured on that. I presume, Mayor, that we'll cover the A10 later on. Thanks.
Absolutely, when it's appropriate. And just on Councillor Count's resignation and a successor, as you've just heard from Mr. Alsop, the burden on the portfolio of finance is significantly different to when Councillor Count originally took that. Obviously, we were a combined authority then in our first year, and since then we've taken on the LEP, adult education, and now we have the SPV and CAM, etc. And the burden is extraordinary, and Councillor Count is quite busy with running the county council as well as the COVID response. And as I said, you thanked him quite rightly, and so as did I earlier. So I will not be appointing a successor before May. I think to start now with that extraordinary level of work would be too much to bring forward in a 5-month period. So I will be taking over Councillor Count's responsibilities until May, and should I be successful in the election, and that's of course up to the general public, then we will be creating a committee around finance in the same way as we successfully have housing and transport committees. We go, apologies, we now go to, we've been asked to note the updated financial position. So we duly note and move on to item 2.2, the 2021-22 draft budget and medium-term financial plan 21 to 25. We have 3 questions on this report from Overview and Scrutiny. So we welcome back Councillor Dupre and fire away, Councillor Dupre.
Thank you very much. The 3 questions from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee are as follows. Firstly, is there any indication of when we might expect to see the strategy underlying the financial figures extrapolated beyond 2020 to 2021 to 2022? The second question is, the staffing budget shows a 2% pay award and increments for performance-related pay. Given the expected announcement of a public sector pay freeze, is the combined authority expecting to proceed with this pay award? And the third question, there are revenue proposals referencing EU funds up to 2023 to 2024. Are these funds received prior to Brexit, and will they be received post-Brexit?
Okay, thank you. So the answers to your questions, Councillor Dupre, are question 1. There is a section devoted to each directorate in the main body of the draft budget and medium-term financial plan report, which outlines the strategic approach to deliver the vision and growth ambition of the combined authority through 2021 and 22 and beyond. These sections also refer to other combined authority strategies, such as the local transport plan, the skills strategy, the housing strategy, and the local economic recovery strategy. On question 2, in previous years, the combined authority has followed the pay agreement reached between the national employers and the NJC trade union on sign-on rates of pay. We will monitor any government announcement on a possible public sector pay freeze, but at this stage it is prudent to make provision for a cost of living pay award in the staffing budget. If an announcement is made for public sector bodies to pay for the freeze pay, then the same rules will apply, of course, to the CPCA as to all other public sector bodies. And thirdly, the EU funding identified relates to 3 project proposals which have been approved by the relevant EU bodies with funding packages over multiple years, as identified in the MTFP. There is no risk to these funds that they would not be available regardless of whether the UK leaves the current transition period with the EU trade deal, with a deal or not, as the UK government has guaranteed to replace the funding should it not be possible to claim it. So I don't know if you've got any comeback on those 3 answers, but they are obviously the stated answers to your question.
Thank you very much. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee will be seeing the budget twice more before the end of the budget cycle, so I'm sure we will be asking more questions and follow-ups at that point.
Indeed, you have plenty of time. So thank you, Councillor Dupre, for now. And I will move to Mr. Alsop again.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this paper sets out the proposed combined authority draft budget for 2021-22 and the medium-term financial plan and capital programme for the period 21-22 to 24-25. It sets out the proposed timetable for the consultation and also the suggested consultees. The budget and MTFP builds on the budget and medium-term financial plan refresh as approved by the board in June 2020. It takes account of the level of reserves brought forward from previous financial years and of expected annual funding streams from 21-22 forwards. It provides a clear presentation of projects whose budget lines have already been approved by the board, and for those projects where they are still subject to approval. All the revenue and capital expenditure lines included within the budget envelope and the MTFP, including both the approved expenditure and the subject to approval expenditure, are affordable and provide a balanced budget, and there is currently no proposal to precept constituent authorities. I won't go through the detail of the paper, but happy to take any questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Members. Councillor Bailey.
Just a very small point. The table that starts on page 131, which is the LGF project table, can we just make sure the name of East Cambridgeshire District Council is correct? It always refers to East Cambridge District. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Apologies for that.
Okay, any other comments, please? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I've got a few questions. I'll start off with 4 small questions that pertain to the text. My connectivity is not good. If somebody waves at me, if you're losing me, and I'll then repeat myself. So just going through some of these, the projects. On page 107, 8.5 refers to the Harston capacity study. Now, I think this got kick-started before I joined back in 2017. So I'm just wondering what's taking so long with that, and you know, what's our plans for it, please. 8.9 refers to the Sawston station contribution, and it's quite a clear statement about match funding if they manage to get any money. But I think last time we discussed this, I did put in a plea for proper engagement with the rail users group, which I gather is very good there, and I just wanted confirmation that that had happened. On page 109, 9.4 refers to garden villages. Now, we've got reference to garden villages dotted around through, you know, various bits of work that we're discussing today. And yet, you know, in my time on the board, we've never discussed garden villages. We haven't got, my understanding was that there was going to be some work done and we were going to adopt a garden village strategy, and we've never done that. So, you know, I'm very worried about us moving in a direction that will could potentially conflict with current or emerging local plans. So I really want to know, have we ditched any plans to have a garden village strategy? Are we just working on the assumption? Because that, you know, that creates a bit of a problem for me. And then going on to page 112, 14.1, this picks up on a question that Councillor Herbert asked at the beginning on the A10, which I don't think got fully answered. It says here, the combined authority has decided to take the project to dual and improved junctions. Now, my understanding was we had 2 bids in, one for dualling and one for upgrades and junction improvements. So I think, you know, Councillor Count had said, you know, have these merged together, or are we still looking at the potential based on the funding that comes forward for doing one or the other? Thank you very much. So, and then I've got some finance questions, but I think if I let those be answered now, that probably would help you as well as me.
Okay. I think those thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Smith. I think some of those are sort of fairly detailed questions in terms of I will probably need to go back to colleagues within the combined authority to get appropriate answers for that. And I know, for example, the in terms of the garden villages, there's been a lot of work associated with the CAM on that. But again, if I can take those questions, and I'll come back to you when I've got more detail about those.
Okay, I actually wonder, Mr. Alsop, if you're the best person to answer these, with all due respect, since you're the man with the money hat on, and this is more about strategy, really.
Yeah, well, perhaps if I could help you, I think certainly it's imperative, as you know, that the CAM is a significant part of our ambition within the county, certainly in and around the south of Cambridgeshire at the moment, with the potential for it to reach into the north. And clearly, the CAM was the project for the CAM, the plan for the CAM is to create a platform for housing growth with business growth, of course, and a public transport network which is as clean and as green and as ecologically sound as could possibly be. And I think that we have an issue, Councillor Smith, and I know that we have different, slightly different targets here, in that to deliver a network such as CAM Metro, I'm looking over 50 to 100 years, and to deliver a local plan, you're looking over 5 years. And so we are certainly not intending to impede or get in the way of local plans, but equally, if we're going to deliver CAM Metro, housing growth has to be part of that discussion. And there are ways to deliver housing that are ecologically sound, and there are ways to deliver housing that are not. And I know that you are certainly in favour of the former. And so it is important when we have an agenda to deliver world-class public transport across the whole of Cambridgeshire, that we are also looking at all the other options that may contribute to delivery of that scheme. That does not mean, as you're fully aware, Councillor Smith, that we have any confirmed sites for garden villages, nor do we have garden villages that are entirely confined to South Cambridgeshire, nor do we have garden villages. It may well be that we are looking at market towns rather than garden villages. So we know that we have to process housing. We know that the local plan system is limited to 5-year periods, and we know that the Metro is a project that will last for many, many, many years more than that. So it is appropriate within our budget to include potential, I think, and would be certainly remiss of us not to.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much, Mayor. So I'll expect something in writing about the kind of 4 specific, well, certainly on Harston, Sawston, and on the A10. I'll expect something.
Yes, of course. Well, I mean, when it comes to at the moment we've committed a very small amount to the railway, potential railway stations. Of course, if anything should move on from that, then it would be appropriate for us to engage not just with railway user groups, but local communities as well. But these are government schemes that we've put some committed funding into, and it falls completely within our public transport ambition, as you're fully aware. And I know that the Harston and Sawston sites are in your patch, as is part of the A10. You know, as Councillor Bailey has said many times about the A10, we have to make sure that we are keeping our options open to deliver the best possible solution to upgrade the A10, and whether that includes potential CAM routes as well, then we have to look at that. So I think what the budget is trying to do is keep our options open, Councillor Smith.
Okay, thank you. It would just be nice to be able to give something back to particularly the people in Harston. May I have your permission to sort of go on and talk about some money?
Of course
things,
you may,
please.
Councillor.
Thank you very much indeed. So Appendix 1C shows £530,000 identified as costs for the local growth fund. Could I just have some clarity, please, about what that's spent on? I can't imagine it's staffing, but if somebody could clarify that, please. So we've got this big list of projects that the local growth fund has been spent on. and it identifies there's £5 million being spent on the business growth service and some more millions being spent on training centres. Now, I had thought that local growth fund was capital funding, and this is obviously revenue for this. So I just want to check that that's all fine. But also local growth fund's going to be running out very soon. So how are these training centres and skills hubs going to keep on operating once that local growth fund money runs out? And then my last question is that the CPCA contributes £260,000 a year to a reserve to pay for mayoral elections, which obviously mounts up quite a lot over 4 years. So I wonder, what's the sort of breakdown of spend on that, please? Because I imagine as we move into the sort of election period, some thought's been given to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to take the last one first in terms of the election costs. So obviously we went through the first election almost 4 years ago, and since then we have been making provision in each of the subsequent years of approximately £260,000 in order to build up a reserve to pay for the next election. So it's based on the last time round, but it's trying to spread the cost over the 4 years. In terms of the local growth funds, yes, that is all capital expenditure. So each of those, the applications for those funds goes through a rigorous process of application. So each of those would have gone through the test to confirm that it was genuine capital expenditure and rather than revenue. And obviously the growth funds will be a one-off payment. So there will be each of those projects, if there are ongoing costs, those would have to be picked up by the projects themselves if there were ongoing funding requirements. We're not sure at the moment what the future of local growth fund is going to be. Obviously that will be caught up in the decisions on the shared prosperity fund, and we're waiting for confirmation of that, along with any other announcements that come out of the comprehensive spending review hopefully later on today. Sorry,
the other one was the 530,000 in the local growth fund cost that was identified as costs for the LGF. What's that being spent on, please? In Appendix 1C.
Yeah, again, I might have to come back to you on that if that's okay in terms of the
I'd
detail.
That. Thanks very much.
Okay, any further comments, please? Mr. Hill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add to the answer in respect of the mayoral elections 2021, John's correct, of course, in that we've based our allocations on the previous 2017 election, which colleagues will recall took place at the same time as the county council elections. This time, obviously, there were a number of other elections occurring, which will impact on the costs related to the mayoral elections. I intend to bring a report to the next board meeting on the detail, and that will become apparent to members. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the budget, please? Okay, well, I'm moving from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Mr. Adams, thank you very much. And I don't have any indication that anybody is vehemently opposed to this. So if that is the case, then we will pass this unanimously.
Could I just register my abstention? Thanks.
Of course you may. Of course.
Thanks.
So that's all in favour, apart from Councillor Herbert, who has abstained on the budget. Thank you very much. We go to part 3 of the agenda, and item 3.1 is the allocation of additional funds to highways agencies. It's a mayoral decision which will be taken in consultation with the board. Mr. Alsop, again, would you be happy to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this report deals with the Mayor's consultation with the board before making a decision to allocate grant funding to Cambridge County Council and Peterborough City Council in respect of two amounts of additional funding, one being for additional pothole grant funds from the Department for Transport, and another allocation which relates to additional home to school and college funds. Both allocations will be subject to being compliant with the conditions attached to the grant awards, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, comments please. Okay, well, as it's a mayoral decision, we've consulted the board. I will be allocating the grants to Cambridgeshire County Council and Peterborough City Council as set out in the report. And we move on to item 3.2, which invites the board to note that the mayoral decision I made on the 5th of November in relation to the allocation of the Getting Building Fund. This was a key decision which was made under general exception arrangements set out in the Constitution. My decision was taken on the advice of the Business Board following the extraordinary meeting on the 19th of October 2020 and after consulting members of the Combined Authority Board. John Tier Hill, Director of Business and Skills, would you set out the background to this decision?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Sorry for the delay there in the IT. Yes, members will hopefully remember that on the 10th of June this year, government announced a £900 million Getting Building fund to deliver jobs and skills across the country. This investment was targeted at areas facing the biggest economic challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This funding was would support delivery of shovel-ready infrastructure projects agreed with mayors and local enterprise partnerships to boost economic growth and fuel the recovery in jobs. The deadline for spending this funding was set at the time at 31st of January 2022, creating some urgency in the processes to get this funding mobilised, approved and into projects that could indeed complete expenditure by January 2022. The Business Board agreed at its extraordinary board meeting on the 9th of July 2020 that the University of Peterborough Phase 2 project for a research centre would be the only project formally invited to make an application for the funding, as it had been ranked number 1 within the projects put forward by local authorities and the Combined Authority. The mayoral decision to approve the recommendation of the Business Board on the 9th of July was made on the 15th of July after consulting members at the Leaders Strategy meeting on the 15th of July. MHCLG confirmed the allocation of the 14.6 million on the 4th of August and indeed paid half, 7.3 million, to the Combined Authority last month in October. The project will proceed through, and has proceeded through all stages of the application process rather than the allocation process, and complied with all the local assurance framework processes for the local growth fund approval process. During the development of the application, discussions were held with MHCLG regarding the requirement to expend all the money by January 2022, and it was indeed agreed that that could be extended to the 31st of March 2022. However, the timeline set out to enable that to happen is still very tight and allows for very little deviation, and indeed required us to contract with Mace, the designers, to start designing the building for planning application in November. And the design and the planning application are indeed underway. To speed that process and avoid the eventuality of failure due to delay, an extraordinary business board meeting was convened on the 19th of October to enable the approval of the funding to the project a month earlier than it would have been able to if it had come to this meeting. The board the business board also recommended that the mayor, in consultation with the combined authority board, approve the allocation of the sums required to progress the project to complete the design and the business case. It further recommended that the mayor, in consultation with the combined authority, delegate the deputy chief officer of the business board, in consultation with finance section 73 officer and the monitoring officer, to authorise the release of the 14.295 million to enact the project with a contractor. The decision on the 19th of October requires, of course, the ratification in the usual way, given that it relates to a funding decision made by the business board. Due to the time constraints, the decision could only be ratified promptly by a mayoral decision, with the mayor using his general power of competence. The mayoral decision route was used on this occasion solely because of the urgency of the intended decision. Government has set the deadline for full expenditure of the 31st of March 2022, and as such, a decision could not be made until the combined authority on the 25th of November, and hence the mayoral decision. The members are asked to note the key decision made by the mayor under and using the general exception procedure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Austin.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to reinforce for the comfort of the board that this particular investment was debated long and hard and in detail by the business board, and it received absolutely unanimous and very enthusiastic support for what we're trying to get done here as a matter of principle. The linkage between research and development and academia, and how that feeds into creating value and jobs in the manufacturing base in particular, with some very innovative technologies. We've got a very, very good partner that we're going to be working with here. I think this will be looked at historically as a very good test case of how to do this type of thing really well.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions on the report or statements to make? No. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Hill, for the work that you've done on this. Certainly getting the university to the position it's in 3.5 years, I think, has been an exceptional achievement for the combined authority. And Peterborough will reap the benefits, as will the north of Cambridgeshire, for many, many, many years and generations to come. So it's an exceptional piece of work, and thank you very much. And the board has now noted the mayoral decision, so thank you. We move to part 4, which is combined authority decisions, and item 4.1 is the CAM special purpose vehicle update and award of the CAM conceptual design contract, which we have 2 questions from this on this item from Lorna Dupre, Councillor Lorna Dupre from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Dupre.
Thank you. The committee's 2 questions on this item are, firstly, given the expected announcement of a public sector pay freeze, is it appropriate that an annual salary of £40,000 per annum is awarded to non-executive directors? Can the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have some background to the process justifying this level of remuneration? And secondly, how does the board justify the level of funding on a project that is currently speculative, and what level of recompense is likely if the project does not happen?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dupre. So, in answer to your first question, the CAM will be vital in supporting our economy and vital to the UK's industrial future. It is a project of national significance. To build this game-changing public transport, we need the best people. The recommended non-executive directors have a wealth of experience in building major projects, managing big budgets, and with a record of exceptional leadership across business and the public sector. Securing funding and financing for the CAM is precisely one of the key areas where they will be able to support the scheme's delivery. I'm pleased that this recruitment process has resulted in recommending appointees of this calibre and proves just what a draw the CAM is and will continue to be for the kinds of talented people that we need to build it. The remuneration of £40,000 was discussed with the candidates during the recruitment process, and it is in line with payments to other non-executive directors, as shown by the recent 2020 non-executive directors survey by the Quoted Companies Alliance. The benefits that the benefits will be realised by CAM will be many, many times the money invested and will be felt for generations to come. And on your second point, the SPEAR report evidenced the fast rate of economic and employment growth in our region and highlighted the importance of planning now to ensure that strong growth will be sustainable post 2030. The CAM is the transport network that will deliver that growth. As I've already said, the CAM will be vital in supporting our economy and is vital to the UK's industrial future. It is a project of national significance. The CPCA makes no apology for having an ambitious vision for our area, and we are willing to invest in the best people and structures to deliver that. Our transport system will be smart, zero carbon, and will also open opportunities for quality housing developments built on green, sustainable principles. It is perfectly normal for people, for a project in a phase of delivery similar to CAM, not to have secured every pound needed for delivery. Perfectly normal. When the CAM company and the combined authorities, this is what the CAM company and the combined authority is here to do. We need to make things happen. We are building the case for investment in schemes which will support people and our economy for decades to come. We are continuing to develop all aspects of the CAM programme, including funding and financing, and working with our potential new chairman now, non-executive directors and our partners. With our new chairman, Lord Mayor, not the chief executive, including with government to attract investment we need. And I think it's just, this is, I understand, Councillor Dupre, for councillors, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge to deliver the solutions necessary for Cambridgeshire and to deliver the solutions necessary to implement the recommendations of the SPEAR report. And of course, the SPEAR report was unanimously supported by this combined authority, and our local transport plans and the CAM in particular are based on the recommendations of that SPEAR report. So I understand, as I said, this is not the usual way that councillors on scrutiny are used to seeing transport solutions delivered in local government, but this is the way that major transport schemes are delivered nationally and internationally, and that's where we've taken our information from and our advice. Do you have any further questions, Councillor Craig?
I think I would simply want to clarify what the committee's question was. The committee was not questioning the need for innovative transport solutions or anything like that. The committee was simply questioning whether, at this stage, committing so much public money at a time when so much of the necessary money to actually deliver the scheme is not yet found, and it's not a case of the odd pound or two, but the vast bulk of that money is not found. The committee was seeking clarification and justification of the wisdom of committing so much money to so much of the infrastructure to make decisions about the scheme when there is no money for the scheme.
Yeah, I think, as I said, Councillor Dupre, it's very, very clear that this is exactly in line with how major schemes of this type begin and how they go on to get funding. So we will see, I'm absolutely confident that the funding will follow the correct principles that we've set forward from day one. Kim Sawyer, would you, Chief Executive, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. And my report today really falls into two parts, Mr. Mayor. The first part relates to the first meeting of the OneCam Limited board. And I should just point out at this stage that I am a member of the OneCam Limited board and was appointed as a director to that board by the combined authority, and therefore I'm just making that as a declaration, but do not see any conflict of interest as you have appointed me to represent essentially the views of the combined authority into that board. The second part of the report today will deal with a number of contracts that are coming forward. The board kindly approved a large sum of money to support the development of the CAM project, and in the spirit of openness and transparency, this report outlines exactly what contracts we're entering into and for what reasons, as we're drawing down that funding that you've agreed. So if, Mayor, I can move to the first part of my report. As I said, the OneCam Limited board meeting met for the first time on the 12th of November. This followed the appointment of Lord Robert Mayor as the chair of that board at the last meeting of the combined authority. And there are a number of matters that I have to bring to the attention of the board today, in line with the shareholder agreement that we are now finalising between the OneCam Limited and the combined authority. And the first and the most important of these is the recommendation for the appointment of 5 of the 6 non-executive directors to the board. I think I can hardly do justice really to the calibre of the candidates that we are proposing to appoint to our board. We have put a summary of their experience and expertise forward as part of an appendix to this report. But they are without doubt, I think, and those of the members of this board who were on the interview panel would probably attest to the real quality that we managed to attract, and therefore the recommendation was unanimously made by the OneCam Board Limited that we make the proposal for their appointment to the board. Following on from that, we agreed a remuneration of, or we are proposing to the combined authority a remuneration of £40,000 per annum. As you've heard, there's been some questions about that. Just to add some clarity around that, there was discussions with Lord Mayor about what the expectations of the non-executive board members might be, particularly if we wanted to attract candidates of this calibre. We spoke to the board members informally about their expectations around remuneration, and also we looked at, and I think Mayor has referred to, the Quoted Companies Alliance report, who produce regular reports on average payments to non-executive directors of small and medium quoted companies. And this, the calibre of people for quoted companies is the calibre of person that we were looking to bring into this. So we considered that 40,000 was an appropriate sum to make the recommendation, and the non-executive directors have said that they would be satisfied with that amount. There were then a few other sort of less, I suppose, less minor points, but ones that are important to have your agreement to. The first one is to agree the appointment of John Alsop as the interim Chief Finance Officer for OneCam Limited. The second point is that we wanted to make an amendment to the heads of terms of the shareholder agreement. This would allow us to bring proposals for appointment of any of the chief executive and any of the directors of OneCam Limited to this board for approval, and allow then the chief executive and those directors to appoint the remainder of the staff in organisation themselves. And finally, the point there is, the final point in relation to the board decisions were to ask you to ratify the opening of a bank account with Barclays for the OneCam Limited. So Mayor, I don't know if you want me to pause there, but then I'm happy to carry on if you like and talk about the contracts that we have entered into, which we are proposing to enter into regarding the funding.
Well, Councillor Herbert has indicated he would like to speak, so let's take the opportunity to draw breath, Ms Sawyer, and we'll bring in Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, Mayor. So my overall questions are about how does the complexity of the process and governance fit with delivering the project. So I don't see anything in this report Kim about the outline business case, and I do greatly value the need for there to be actually a proper technical and financial singular assessment. So I'd like to know when that process will be concluded. When will the outline business case be finalised? I'd like to understand, given that the Department for Transport has some very exacting requirements on major schemes, what approvals and whether there's anything in writing from the Department for Transport that confirms that they support the approach that's been taken. I just note in the background that this is a very complicated process. I'm not saying that I'm closed-minded on it, but I just take the view that the outline business case is needed because we need to know what it is, where it is, how it links with other transport provision. And this is very large sums of money being consumed. I don't doubt the sincerity and skill and experience, including on aspects like the Olympic delivery of the proposed board members. But I come back also, Mayor and Kim, to the point that we do need to be an intelligent client, and we do actually need, in my view, to have 150 grand or 200 grand transport director, simply because we are ultimately the combined authority, and you, Mayor, need the expertise in-house to actually oversee a process which is very detailed, very large, and which does need to deliver. So when is the outline business case going to be ready, and have DFT given their confirmation that they support this approach? Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Kim.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. So you are correct, this is a very large and complex project. And for that reason, and as you know, it's been complicated by the fact that there are two bodies essentially delivering what is a single network for the CAM. And for that reason, we have been in discussions with the GCP recently about our business case and the programme for our business case. And we are hoping, myself and the Chief Executive of the GCP, we are planning to meet next week to discuss what that programme timetable will look like. And I'm aware that you have been pushing for some time to see that, but clearly we did take a pause a while ago to have a look at the best way of delivering this project in order to guarantee success. And through that process, we have been looking at how we align our work with the work of the GCP to ensure that we can have a single programme business case which will deliver all of the expectations of the CAM, which is, as we've heard, is more than just a transport project. And so that process is ongoing. I cannot, for that reason, cannot give you a definite date today around the outline business case. What you will see from the remainder of the recommendations in this report is that we are moving towards a more definite approach around this. And so if I go on to explain the rest of the decisions, perhaps that will help. So first of all, we took a pause, not just for the outline business case, but we also took a pause because, as you know, we took advice from the TAC group, the Technology Advisory Committee, which comprised local business entrepreneurs and members of the University of Cambridge, who asked us to take a different approach to the transport solution that we were trying to provide. And we entered into we've engaged in a procurement process around looking at that alternative vehicle and transport system. And one of the recommendations I'm making to you today is that you delegate authority to me in mid-December to award potentially 3 contracts for designs that will come forward to the board in March of next year. So we have begun a procurement process. We've had a very good response to that. We had 15 applications or 15 tenders in. We evaluated those tenders. We're taking 10 people forward through this process. We will then slim that down in December to 3. Those 3 will each be awarded amounts of £200,000 each to help them develop that particular design concept, and that will come back to the board for approval in March. So that's one of the first matters that I'm asking you to approve. Secondly, there's a number of contracts that will help inform the development of the business case. And those contracts are the contract for legal services, a contract with Mace, and that's outlined in paragraph 2.12 of my report. And really that is helping us to design the specification now as we revitalise the business case that we paused earlier. And we're now in a position where we can start to redefine what it is that we're looking for from our business case in a joined up way with the GCP, but we need assistance to do that. And so we're entering into a contract with Mace for that. And then finally, we agreed that we needed to have and start putting a delivery strategy in place. And the delivery strategy is effectively the plan for how you take such complex projects forward. And that was based upon guidance given by government that many of the reasons why these large complex projects fail is because there is not enough planning at the outset around how you deliver these projects. And so we agreed that we would take forward a delivery strategy. We would like to instruct Jacobs now to help us deliver some essential elements of that delivery strategy, which will then feed into the development of the business case as well. And that's outlined at paragraph 2.13 of the report. So members, what I'm asking you to do is to enable me really to be able to move this project forward and bring a report back to you in March, which will be the outcome of many of these issues. And I think what I can say, I think there are some very positive signs with the non-executive directors that we have attracted, with this procurement process that we're undertaking around a very innovative transport system to which we've had a fantastic response. I think we've got a very good chance of putting a very good case in front of DfT. And we've had some very promising, come back to your final question, Councillor Herbert, we've had some very promising discussions with DfT. They would like to see us and how we develop this further before we will get, of course, they always want to see more detail before they will actually give us anything commitment in writing around moving this forward. But as we've said before, this is about giving ourselves the best chance for success. And so what I'm asking for you to do is agree the funding that will, I think, move us into that position. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much indeed. On the grounds of consistency, I'm still really concerned that we are putting cart before horse here. I'm not fundamentally opposed to an SPV as a delivery vehicle. I now know considerably more about it than I did in the past, and it may well be the right vehicle, but it's extremely expensive and it is public money. And we have huge uncertainty. We have huge vision and passion about this, but we still don't have any money. So we have huge uncertainty about whether CAM is going to deliver. I certainly hope it does. But I have to question the wisdom, as Councillor Dupre said, of spending and committing such huge sums of public money before we're further down the line. So I just want to pick up some specific things on the money front. There's 995,000 of local growth funds gone into one CAM, which we've already heard from Mr. Alsop is capital. So I presume as it's gone in as an equity investment, that's a way of turning that into revenue. I'd like confirmation that that's fully in line with LGF regulations, please, and would hold up in an audit. And the additional, I think, 10 million that's been allocated to the SPV, has that been approved by DfT, please? I don't want, further down the line to hear that we've overstepped the mark in some way. Now, in relation to the recommendations, the appointment of Mr. Alsop, who is an outstanding officer as interim chief finance officer. I see it says interim. So does it say interim because the intention is to get a dedicated chief finance officer? Because we've already heard how overburdened his department is. They seem to be spinning plates, really. And I'm also very keen that there's quite a strong element of segregation of this body from the CA. They've got to be able to act with some autonomy. And I think we just to have a dedicated officer, you know, because this is vast sums of money, seems to be sensible to me. So I'd just like to know a bit more about that. And I see that these sums of money, 3 lots of £200,000 and a further £620,000 to Jacobs. The sign-off is from the Combined Authorities Chief Executive. Is this not the sort of thing that should be being you know, what's the role of the Chief Exec and the SPV in this? You know, should we not, they've got, you know, we've allocated money to the SPV. Should that not be this new, when hopefully we get him or her, Chief Executive's role to be doing that sign-off rather than the CPCA's Chief Executive's responsibility? Thank you.
Ms. Sawyer, very detailed questions there. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for coming up with those. Perhaps, Ms. Sawyer, if you can't answer all those immediately, we could write to Councillor Smith, but perhaps you have some answers to one or two of them.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So to try and be quite succinct about this, I think, yes, there is huge investment here. It is the nature of government requirements that we must invest to provide the best business case possible in order to encourage government to invest even further in us. And we are in the process at the moment of making the best case possible. So that is why you're seeing the investment that you are. Yes, in relation to the investment of LGF funding, we have taken legal advice on that. I'm happy to share that with the members. This is about the conversion of capital to revenue and that being in line with LGF conditions. So yes, we have taken some quite dedicated legal advice on that. In relation to the £10 million for the SPV, there isn't that level of funding for the SPV invested at the moment. Perhaps if I can take that up with you offline, Councillor Smith, and actually get some further discussion with you about what your concerns are around that, and we can perhaps deal with that later. In relation to dedicated CFO, yes, our intention, of course, is to start to recruit to the organisation, and we as officers of the Combined Authority are supporting the company really to get established and get underway until we can ensure that the recruitment process will bring permanent members of staff into the SPV. And yes, I also agree, I fully agree.
Unfortunately, we've lost Ms. Sawyer.
I'll never know what she agreed with.
We may well, hopefully she'll come back in a second or two. I think, as I said to Councillor Dupre, just replying, I suppose, to the tone of the questions, Councillor Smith, and I think you understand the challenges that we face with public transport and housing, and growing the economy in the most ecological way we can. And in order to do that, we've got to do something exceptional, something different. There's no doubt about that. And if we sit and rest on our laurels or take, you know, ordinary actions, we will have a failure on our hands that we will have to contend with. So my view has always been we need to get this into the right position in order to get the funding necessary to deliver. And it isn't a transport policy, it is a transport, housing and business growth solution, and it is a platform to enable the area of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to be competitive nationally and internationally for the next 100+ years. And of course, there isn't another project that does that. And it's very important to make sure that we have short-term thinking, but also more important, in my opinion, that we have long-term thinking to enable the success of the economy. And we've been told very clearly by the SPEAR report where our problems lie, and very clearly that we need to act, and that's exactly what we are doing. Mr. Hill.
Just for a matter of information, Mayor, obviously Kim's having signal problems at the moment and offers temporary apologies, and will endeavour to get back onto the meeting as soon as possible.
Okay, well, I will then adjourn the meeting for until Ms. Sawyer is available. I think it'll be the most sensible thing.
Sorry, when are we adjourning till then? We can't hear you, James.
Muting myself. I'll adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes and we'll come back.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask members to turn off their videos and their microphones during the adjournment?
Hello, Mayor. I'm back in the meeting.
Well done. You've put the
Apologies
down
for
the
that.
meeting.
I've had some real problems with my system, so apologies.
That's okay. Well, we stopped and you can begin again when we are all back in the room. Your last word was, I agree.
Yes, and I know exactly where I was. Thank you. So as soon as you're ready to go, Mayor, then I can start.
Well, I can't see Councillor Bailey at the moment, or I think that's who we're missing. Richenda, is Councillor Bailey in the meeting room?
Councillor Herbert hasn't rejoined us yet.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we're just waiting for Councillor Herbert. I'll give Councillor Herbert one more minute. Okay, well, Councillor Herbert will join when he can, I'm sure, but we are quorate, so we will continue. Ms Sawyer, would you like to continue from your agreed position?
Yes, so this was in relation to Councillor Smith's question about whether we needed a dedicated officer within the combined authority for this project, and the answer to that is most likely yes, but those discussions are ongoing at the moment. I absolutely agree, we do need to be an intelligent client, and we are looking at our internal arrangements as this project grows to see how we can best manage from within the organisation. And when we have some proposals, those will come to the leader strategy meeting for discussion with members to ensure that they're satisfied with the arrangements that we're putting in place. And then your final question was in relation to shouldn't these contracts be signed off by the company? That is exactly our intention, Councillor Smith. It's a very good question because, and it's only because we don't in fact have the necessary employees yet recruited by the company that they aren't able to enact these particular decisions. And the reason that I am asking for authority to enact those in the interim is that we all recognise the need to move this project on. It's important for the GCP programmes that they have around the development of CAM. It's important for the local plans that we ensure that we move this project on quickly, and therefore in the interim I'm asking that I take the decisions in relation to this. Again, you will probably have seen from your leader strategy agenda that I will be taking the outcome of this procurement proposal back to leaders for an informal discussion with you in December before I sign anything off. But that will be done, and yes, then we will, once we have an appropriate chief exec appointed, we will novate these contracts over to the company to deliver. So I hope that answers all of your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Herbert, you wanted to come back.
Yeah, thanks, Kim, and thanks for battling it. I'd just like to sustain my point, Mayor, in terms of seeking a response from DFT, because I think given that whilst it's not clear how it will be funded, and I underline and support your passion for this project, because it is a game changer, and we do need to have the diagonal journeys from home to work and out into the whole county that this will bring. But given that there's work, a part of this, Mayor, being commissioned by Price Waterhouse on how it's going to be funded, and without making any presumptions, I just would expect that a national project like this would seek a foundation of some public funding from government. I just ask Mayor and Kim that we do get a letter of whether it's a letter of comfort or just a letter of just support from DFT for the stages that we've got to, and some level of enthusiasm from them, because it does need to be seen, as you say, Mayor, as a national project, but also just that they give us some buy-in. Given how much money is being spent, and Councillor Smith's question earlier, that if we are spending, as we are, millions in terms of progressing it, that we know where we're going to get that funded back from at some stage.
Yeah, look, Councillor Smith, Councillor Herbert, I think it's very, very clear where and how you go about things with this kind of scheme, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing the right things. We're putting the right kind of special vehicle together. The people that we've got engaged in that special vehicle are people of experience of delivering major infrastructure schemes across not just the UK, but also elsewhere. And as you said, delivering London Olympics, HS1 and all these things. So they are fully engaged and fully aware of how to do these, and at the appropriate times where we need engagement with government, and at the right time, we will get that engagement as and when we need to. I've always been very confident in the delivery of this scheme, but it does take significant drive and ambition to get to the point to get that government buy-in. And of course, the easiest thing in the world sometimes is to walk away from challenge, and that's certainly not where I am or where you would expect me to be. We are bringing these proposals to you precisely because we know that's the route we need to take to get the kind of response that you are asking for. And at the appropriate time, of course, that response will come. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm very much in support of moving forward with this for a number of points. I want to not debate again the size of the prize and what we're trying to do from a delivery point of view here, but it's entirely appropriate that we've got a very robust outline business case, and to get there does require some investment. And in my mind, I see things through a very black and white lens of investment and return. And given the size of the prize here and how significant it is in terms of leveraging all of the other interrelated activities and initiatives that support the growth that we're trying to aspire to, this is in my mind, still a relatively small investment. Now, the decision as to whether we make that investment, in my mind, is largely down to the chicken and egg problem and the people and the expertise that we can get around us to do that. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised at the caliber of these people. I was surprised, frankly, in the world that I live in, that they were prepared to take this kind of project on for £40,000 each. Frankly, these people could command higher returns than that. And what that says to me is that they passionately believe in this project. And these are people that know, understand, they've been there, they've done it. The monetary aspect to them is less important than the personal capital that they're investing by putting their name and reputation behind such a project. And if they're prepared to do that, that's good enough for me. I'm with it 100% and support moving forward with these initial investments.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Could I have a point of clarification on something Kim just said in her previous answer to me. So Kim, when you were talking about the 3 contracts to deliver concept designs for CAM at 200,000 each, and the additional contract to Jacobs to support key elements of the delivery strategy, you related that to GCP. Could you just please explain to me how that work relates to the GCP schemes, please?
Yes, so it's all part of the timetabling. If we want to deliver and we want to be able to work on a single outline programme business case with the GCP, then we need to undertake certain works now. Those works are relating to the work around the development of the procurement for the specification for the business cases, so that we can move forward with that work. Sorry, you're frowning, Councillor Smith. I'm probably not making myself clear enough.
Well, I'm not quite understanding, but also, are you saying that the GCP schemes are predicated on the completion of this work? Because that worries me intensely, bearing in mind that, you know, we've made, or some of us have made undertakings to ministers about there not being any further delays in the GCP projects, and if we've now got over £1.25 million worth of work still to do in order to underwrite and validate the GCP work, that's going to build in considerable delays. So I'm not understanding the relationship.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I am having a few signal problems again, so if I disappear, please forgive me. But no, the answer is no, we are not intending. I mean, the real drop dead red line for the GCP is that whatever discussions we have about moving forward for a single network, it couldn't really delay the work that they're doing to deliver the arms of the CAM. And so we have been working with them on an outline business case which will meet their requirements and meet ours. So I'm not saying it's we're in any way holding up the GCP. This is important for us to develop our part of the outline business case, but in order to have a proper outline business case across the whole network, we do need to develop between us a programme business case, and that's what you will see coming forward. Following our discussions next week, I'll have a much better idea of what that looks like and what the timetable is going to be, and then I'll be able to bring it to leaders for discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Bowden.
Very much indeed, Mayor. I'm personally very excited by the CAM project. And of course, the project is far more than just affecting Cambridge City and South Cambridgeshire. It should and could, and I hope will, affect the whole of the county. And to use a phrase which resonates from the 1980s, it really can help with the trickle-down effect from Cambridge into the other parts of the combined authority area, which have not prospered as well as the southern part of Cambridgeshire has done. I'm very happy with the recommendations that we've got in front of us, including getting involved with these particular contracts and then later novating them to the special purpose vehicle, to One CAM Limited. I was really very pleased when we made the decision to go along with creating the special purpose vehicle, because there are going to be very many challenges ahead over the course of the months and years ahead in this project. And it's really important that we do have a vehicle which can take this forward effectively. But given those challenges and the nature of them and the complexity, it's very important indeed that we have the right individuals guiding the whole project forward. And that's why I was so, I'll use the words that Mr. Adams used, so surprised and delighted to see the quality and the caliber of the non-executive directors. And that's really important. It's really important, not merely as Mr. Adams said, because their involvement validates the project in many ways, but also because it gives a great degree of assurance to the rest of us that the project is going to be looked at by individuals who are best qualified to be able to guide it and to make sure that the many bumps and troubles that there are along the way, that they're navigated as effectively and as efficiently as possible. But what interested me were the comments about further staffing in the CPCA and our need to be an intelligent client. And I would like to give a warning that we've got to be very aware of the difference between being an intelligent client and any desire there may be on the part of anyone for the CPCA to be micromanaging this project. And we've got to be on the right side of that divide. It's completely correct that we be an intelligent client, but let's not fall into the trap of starting to micromanage the way in which one CAM Limited actually operates and delivers for us.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden, and I absolutely agree with your final point. The whole point of having a special purpose vehicle is to try and take put the decision making in the hands of the professionals rather than micromanage those people. I don't think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of the councillors or myself have ever delivered a major infrastructure project of this type. So listening to professionals is absolutely key in getting the right decision making. So we've had a robust debate on this, and I thank members for that. I am proposing from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Holditch. Therefore, I will now be asking each voting member of the board whether they are content to approve the recommendations for item 4.1, CAM Special Purpose Vehicle Budget Update and award of the CAM Concept Design Contract. Mr. Adams.
Yes, support.
Councillor Bailey.
Support.
Councillor Bowden.
Support.
Councillor Count.
Support.
Councillor Herbert.
Abstain, Mayor.
Councillor Holditch.
Support.
And Councillor Smith.
Abstain.
Thank you very much. So the majority is there and clear. I would just like to thank members. Of course, we are doing something here that is exceptional. It isn't usual for local government. It is breaking down barriers of what can be achieved. It is looking forward, not 3, 4, 5 years, but 50 to 100 years. And I understand it brings its challenges, but I'm absolutely convinced that we are doing the right thing for the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, delivering this scheme. We now turn to item 4.2, Fenland Stations Regeneration Outline Business Case. Mehmet.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, board members. So this paper that I'm presenting today is related to the Fenland Stations Regeneration Project. It started a while back for Fenland District Council as far back as April 2012 on the project. So I think we, as the combined authority, working with our partners at Fenland District Council and Greater Anglia as part of it, has reached quite a major milestone in this project. Just look towards the recommendations in terms of basically the request for today for approval. A, being the approval of the outline business case outcomes. B, approve the start of construction for Main in March Station. And C, the approval of drawdown of 1.2 million from the budget within the medium-term financial plan. As you know, that in March 2018, as part of the Combined Authority Board, this project was added to the business plan as a key project. The work that's done to date so far in terms of developing the business case has been completed and independently reviewed. And in terms of that review and the benefits associated with both March and Mainey, it shows a good breakdown of a high value in terms of investment for the project of 2.9. In terms of work that's been done to date as well, I guess the paper says it. There's quite a good list of projects that has already happened to date. But as I said, we're at this milestone now where we're ready to make a start on the Mainey car park, which is a new car park at Mainey Station. and also with March Station, car park improvements there, but also the needed improvements to the Platform 1 building. So, as I say, in terms of the recommendations, approval of the outcome of the business case, commence construction for both stations, and the approval of 1.2 million. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mehmet. Members, Councillor Bowden.
I very much welcome this report, and I'd like to place on record how helpful Fenland District Council has found the combined authorities officers in moving this whole project forwards. And as Mehmet quite correctly said, originally this did start in Fenland District Council, and I doubt that it would have come to fruition had it not been for the intervention of the combined authority and your leadership, Mayor, in pushing this particular set of projects forwards, and I'm very grateful for that. Just to update a couple of things in the report, Fenland District Council did on Friday last week complete the purchase of the land in Mainey, and we did so slightly ahead of schedule, but deliberately in order to ensure that there was no danger of that land slipping into potential residential development. So that is now secure, and that risk has now been removed. And I had hoped to be able to say that yesterday, as had been scheduled, Greater Anglia had signed on the dotted line and all the terms and conditions had been agreed between Fenland District Council and GA. They haven't quite agreed to everything yet. We're still just in negotiations, but we're very close to the stage where GA signs a back-to-back agreement with us, which is a back-to-back agreement with the CPCA agreement. And when that does happen, it will be all speed moving forwards on this. And I think that the whole project will make a very significant difference indeed to travel, not merely for people who live in Mainey or March or Whittlesea, but for the villages which are around, and also for Chatteris and Wisbech, as mentioned in the report, which don't have railway stations of their own and who need to be able to access the rail system in order to ensure that the northern part of the combined authority area does have more reasonable transport alternatives than is the case currently. So thank you very much indeed for this report. Thank you, Mayor, for your support for what's being put forward. And I'm more than happy to agree with the proposals we've got in front of us.
Thank you very much. Councillor Herbert.
Just briefly, this is an excellent project, and the critical aspect of that rail route through Whittlesea, March, and now Mainey, and down to Ely is just it's just been underestimated by Network Rail for decades and its predecessors. So just thoroughly welcome what's been done, and also the fact that the District Council is playing a big part in it as well as yourself.
Yeah, I agree, Councillor Herbert. The frustration I have with Crossrail and their inability, and I know that frustration is shared by Councillor Count. We've had many meetings about trying to get them to even stop at Cambridge North, let alone later stops and regular stops through the Fens. But the frustration I have is tangible, and I look on with frustration when I see that cross-country trains have had their contract extended without any consultation with myself or any members in Cambridgeshire at all about their standard of delivery across our county. If you go through to Birmingham, they stop at every station west of Peterborough, and yet run a poor, very poor service through Cambridgeshire. And that has massive effect. The railway station at Mainey is 28 minutes from Cambridge, and houses, 4-bedroom houses, about £1 million cheaper than Cambridge. That surely would be enticing to some if they were able to use it to commute to work. And I think that we have to, and I will be, continuing to engage to improve the service along these lines. I have a meeting with Chris Heaton-Harris, the Railway Minister, on I think it's the 1st or 2nd of December, certainly, where I intend to bring this up. But I will welcome the £13 million, shame it's not 13 billion, £13 million towards Ely North Junction, which of course is key to that we develop Ely North Junction in order not just to improve the service along this route, but to bring forward that much desired link into Wisbech. And we can't really do the Wisbech Rail without Ely North Junction. The two are indelibly linked. This is good news. It's investment for the Combined Authority, I hope, ahead of better service coming through the fence, and that's the ambition. I don't have any further speakers, so I'm happy to move from the chair. If I have a seconder, please. Councillor Bowden. I haven't had any speakers against, so I will assume that we are unanimously in favour of this investment into Fenham railway stations. Thank you very much. That is unanimous.
Sorry, Chair, just in relation to vote C, could we do the vote because it does require 2/3 majority?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Then, I will take your point, Rochelle, and I will begin with, as always, at the top of the alphabet, Mr. Adams.
Yes, support.
Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bowden.
Agreed.
Councillor Count.
Support.
Councillor Herbert.
Support.
Councillor Holditch.
Support.
And Councillor Smith.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. So that is unanimous. We move on to item 4.3, Fengate Phase 1. Officers have asked the board to note a correction of the voting arrangements for this item. Recommendations A and B require a simple majority to be approved, not the 2/3 majority stated in the report. Recommendation C does require a vote in favour by at least 2/3 of the members representing the constituent councils, to include members appointed by Cambridgeshire County Council and Peterborough City Council. We go back again to Member Ahmed, who will give us a report. Thank you, Member.
Thank you, Mayor. Afternoon, board members again. So the purpose of this paper is to report on the work undertaken by Peterborough City Council in terms of the full business, in terms of the strategic outline business case, and in terms of the recommendations, we've got 3 there. First one being the approval of the strategic outline business case. B, the approval and the commencement of the full business case and detailed design stage, and C, the approval of the drawdown of £270,000 from the budget within the medium-term financial plan to develop the full business case and detailed design. I'm sure members amongst you know that the Fengate access area, study area, is a significant growth area within Peterborough. The work that's been undertaken in terms of the strategic outline business case obviously makes that claim in terms of the work that's needed to try and support that growth. The economic case clearly demonstrates that the scheme does achieve a benefit cost ratio of 2.7, which is high value for money. This has been confirmed by the independent reviewer as well. In terms of the package of improvements that we have, I refer to 3.7 in terms of the first package of improvements. That's required essentially a selection of roundabout and junction improvements from traffic signals, and also some lane widening in this location. I'd say the added benefit in terms of the work that is also been undertaken, as well as we know that there is a live planning application with regards to Red Brick Farm, and there is potential for some funding also going towards some of these improvements that are going to be made. So in terms of the timescales, referring to section 4, chapter 4, it provides a clear milestone activity in terms of where the team will get to in terms of the full business case, and in terms of actually getting out on site as well. Therefore, your approval of the funds would very much be welcome, so this work could commence. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mehmet. Councillor Holditch.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Obviously, this is very important to Peterborough. We're getting very short of industrial land, and this scheme will help us get America Farm off the ground, because that is a rather large area of land. As I say, it's important to Peterborough and our economy, and I guess to Greater Cambridge's economy as well. So I'd like to propose that we go ahead with it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. So I've got no objections to this. It's obviously badly needed, and the BCR is very good. But what I would like to see, as we get more and more of these, smaller, albeit it's still a lot of money, these smaller kind of standalone projects, I think we need to be thinking more about where they're sitting within our overall strategies. So both within our overall transport and access strategy and within our economic growth strategy. So I think we need to be able to start assessing schemes like that within the context of wider strategies. My apologies if I missed it, and we are doing it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think it has come here to approval because of the mention there of the need to both the constituent councils to vote in favour. I believe that's the case. So ordinarily it would be covered by Transport Committee, but I believe that's the case. Perhaps if you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. So it usually would be covered outside, I would imagine. Mr. Over, Councillor Over.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to support my leader, Councillor Holditch, on the plans for America Farm. It's a tremendous opportunity in an area that's just right for development. As a local councillor, one of the aspects I deal with is education. One of our major problems is lack of opportunities, lack of skilled opportunities and high-level opportunities for people in Peterborough and the surrounding area. The economy seems at the moment to be largely dependent on service industries, and of course that's been badly hit. But if we're looking for a technologically advanced city, I would fully support what Councillor Holditch is saying.
Thank you very much. And I have no further speakers. Councillor Holditch has proposed this, and do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Bowden, Mr. Adams had your hand up at the same time. So I will go through on the vote because otherwise Rochelle quite rightly will tell me that we need to make sure that there is a vote on item C. So going through the vote, Mr. Adams.
Yes, support.
Councillor Bailey.
Sorry, did you not hear me? Yes, I support.
Councillor Bowden.
Support.
Councillor Count.
Support.
Councillor Herbert.
Support.
Councillor Holditch.
Support.
And Councillor Smith.
Support.
Therefore, that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We will now move on to item 4.4. This is Oxford to Cambridge ARC. Paul Rains has joined us. He's our Director of Delivery and Strategy, and he will introduce the report.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Board members, you've previously discussed the Oxford to Cambridge ARC and its significance. You took the decision to identify yourselves as the growth board within the ARC governance for this area. You nominated representatives onto the ARC executive arrangements, and you asked to take periodic updates on ARC activity. So this paper is the first of those updates. It doesn't ask you for decisions, but it sets out what's currently going on. I'm conscious we're a long way into the meeting, so I won't retail everything that's in it, but I just wanted to pull out 4 headlines from this paper. The first is, we've tended in the past to talk about the importance of or not of the ARC to us. One of the things that I think leaps out of this paper is the importance of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to the ARC. Although we have 23% of the population of the ARC, we're producing 43% of the growth, the GVA growth in the ARC, 31% of the jobs in the ARC. We have a huge set of knowledge industry assets, competitive assets. We have the ARC is built on the kind of thing that we're doing in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. And indeed, we've contributed to shaping the agenda, and Councillor Smith will be particularly familiar with the way in which things that we've been talking about here have shaped the Green ARC agenda on which she's been leading. Second thing is that we are looking to this ARC activity for mutual reinforcement
for our existing priorities, for our growth agenda, including our levelling up agenda, or as Councillor Bowden just described it, our trickle down agenda. And therefore, this is not about generating side activity. It's about finding ways in which our engagement in the ARC can reinforce what we're trying to achieve in the first place. The third thing is the paper picks up on spatial planning activity, which is being driven absolutely from within central government, from within MHCLG. How that goes forward, obviously, is then going to lead to some quite interesting conversations and issues. So I wanted to flag that up. And finally, the civil servants have indicated to us that there may be something to look out for in today's statement from the Chancellor, although it is highly unlikely that that will come with a lot of pound signs attached. It looks like there will be another little flag just confirming that this continues to be a policy agenda that people at the core of government are interested in. And I'll stop there, Mayor, and open it up for comments and questions and discussion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry to sound a negative sound at this point, but negative note. But I have to say that those of us in the north of the Combined Authority area, at least in Fenland, have always had some suspicion about the Oxford to Cambridge arc, because for some of us, we're a long way away from that straight line which is drawn between Oxford and Cambridge. And whilst we may technically have been included within their so-called area, we very often feel very much left out. And that was very much exemplified by some of the earlier documents produced by the ARC, where Fenland wasn't even included within the area of the maps which were shown, indicating the area the ARC was operating within. And that concern and that suspicion has been reinforced by the paper we have in front of us today, particularly paragraph 3.5, which lists the 5 priority initiatives which have been established. And if we look at the detail of those 5 priority initiatives, as far as Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are concerned, it very much seems to be concentrated on Cambridge and the area immediately around Cambridge. The rest of the Combined Authority area really is not focused within any of those 5 particular policy priority initiatives which have been listed. And I do have concerns, and I do look to our CPCA officers and to you, Mayor, to ensure that the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough is taken into account when the ARC is attempting to ensure that we do contribute towards the increase in GVA which is required, and also that we manage to reduce inequalities within the region as a whole and within our particular Combined Authority area as well. So if the periphery could also be given consideration and can be brought, at least occasionally, to the attention of those who are in charge of the ARC, I'd be very grateful. Thank you, Mayor.
I think, Councillor Bowden, your points are very strong, very well made. And I hate, well, not really hate, but I will go back to Cam Metro and the ambition to reach across the entirety of Cambridgeshire, and of course a hub just to the north of Camborne, linking in St Neots, but also linking into Alconbury and potentially into the Fens through to Chatteris, I think is the way to reach the northern parts of this this county that at the moment the ARC doesn't. I've said many times, just delivering thousands of people onto a station at Cambridge South is not going to solve a single traffic problem in Cambridgeshire. We have to make sure that it is linked absolutely hand in glove with the Metro. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. So last week was a very busy week with the ARC, as Councillor Count and the Mayor knows, with the launch of the ARC Economic Prospectus and also the launch of the ARC University Group Prospectus. Both went very well. What was interesting with the university's audience is that the view of the ARC at this end is quite different. It's much more positive, despite Councillor Bowden's reservations, than it is at the Oxford end, which is why I think, we have some particular opportunities here, as Paul Rains highlighted to demonstrate our importance to the ARC as well as the ARC's importance to us. The one thing that leaders do need to note is that the ARC spatial strategy is going to be led by MHCLG.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Herbert.
I listen and understand Councillor Bowden's point. I do see the ARC as a big opportunity for all of Cambridgeshire, but I can see why Peterborough and Fenland may not feel that it's worth putting hours into some of the meetings. I pay tribute to the work that Councillor Smith's put in. I do think that by the combined authority making progress on its own non-statutory spatial plan, it will influence what MHCLG is doing. And I just do see it as being that ARC needs to be seen through the lens of the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough at our end. And there is no point in all of the growth being in the south of the county, but we are on the list for government attention in the sense of potential further support and funding, and that can assist Cam Metro, and it does mean East-West Rail, which I believe will bring benefits to the whole of Cambridgeshire, as well as the other investments. So I think we do need to be good partners in the ARC. And we, in a way, I'm very happy to fill the gap of Buckinghamshire running away from this, because I believe that government will back investment in the right sustainable low carbon opportunities, and that will include Peterborough and Fenland, I believe.
Okay, I do not have any further speakers, and we've been asked to note the content of the report, so I believe we have noted it. So thank you very much, members. We now go on to item 4.5, the Market Towns Programme Investment Prospectus, approval of second tranche of recommended projects. The report was published late to accommodate an update to include 3 additional project proposals for approval. These were originally reverted back to the applicant for more detail as part of the assessment, subsequently resolved for these to be included in this November round of approvals. The Market Towns programme is especially focused on COVID-19 recovery and on approving projects that can be implemented for the period between November and spring 2021, a period which town centres will undoubtedly need support to survive and rebound from the COVID-19 shock to their business revenues and customer footprint. It was felt important to include these matters for the consideration of the board. However, this resulted in this report missing the publication deadline. The report contains 11 appendices, which are exempt from publication under paragraph 3 of Part 1, Schedule 12A of Local Government Act 1972, as amended, in that it would not be in the public interest for this form of information to be disclosed. Information relating to financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. If members of the board wish to discuss the information contained in these appendices, we will need to consider whether to go into private session. Does any member want to discuss the exempt appendices? No. Okay. In that case, we will defer. Sorry. In that case, then I will ask Domenico Carrillo to introduce the report. Domenico.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Board. This item is a continuation of the Market Towns programme, and this paper is seeking board approval for our second round of projects received against the Market Town Investment Prospectus. The amount requested is totals £1,426,169 of funding. Approval is also requested for an additional £99,900 for unapproved budget to be rolled over into the 2021 MTFP budget. A total of 12 project proposals were received for consideration for this board meeting. Having been independently assessed and appraised, the following 10 bids have been recommended for board approval today. We have Whittlesea Heritage Centre seeking 500,000 to facilitate the development of a dedicated heritage centre Linked to this project is also an additional £218,169 to create and enhance a new walk that will provide a distinctive historic offer for the town. And that's really to support not only local residents, but also the visitor economy coming forward in that locality. We also received 3 bids to focus specifically around COVID recovery and introducing improvements and refurbishments around street furniture and the appearance of high streets and town centres. They have been received for Chatteris, Ely and Soham. To support this further, we've also received 2 further bids to enhance the digital connectivity for Ely and Soham. This is to extend public Wi-Fi network in those market towns. That will obviously support the community there. We've also received 2 bids to engage some specialist advice to bring forward an evidence-based strategy for Ely and Soham. This will be used to inform the wider capital bids that will be submitted for board consideration in the new year. And finally, we've had an application received for Steeple Row in Ely, which will undertake some environmental improvements to open up access for this this vital linkway in the town and to improve street furniture and the appearance of that pedestrian access. The 2 bids which unfortunately have not been put forward for approval today have been reverted back to the applicants for more development. They've not been rejected, but they've just been asked for more information. Those projects include the Wisbeach Water Park, which was submitted by Finland, and a Littleport A10 roundabout, which was submitted by East Cambridgeshire. Both of those have been notified, and those discussions are underway. And that's the end of my report, and I'll hand over to you, please, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Domenico. And Councillor Bowden is first with his hand up. Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Mayor. On 2 occasions so far today in this meeting, I've had reason to bemoan the fact that parts of the northern part of the combined authority area has for a long time been ignored and overlooked so far as investment is concerned. But this is the 2nd occasion within this meeting when I have reason to thank you, Mayor, and officers for the support which is now being given to those forgotten areas. And the money which has been allocated here will make a significant difference and will help to boost local activities within many of our market towns, which have historically suffered from a lack of investment. I'd particularly like to draw members' attention to the support being given for the Whittlesea Heritage Centre, which, for those who don't know it, is based around what has been called Britain's Pompeii, which was the archaeological finds at the Must Farm site in Whittlesea, where one of the most spectacular and well-preserved Bronze Age settlement was uncovered over the course of the last few years. And there is every prospect that in the area of the Whittlesea Heritage Centre, further archaeological finds will be found over the course of the next few decades as more of the peatland in that area is excavated. The amounts of money which are involved here are maybe relatively small in terms of the whole budget of the combined authority, but will have a disproportionate effect in the areas where it has been requested, and I'm very grateful for that. I can confirm that the Wisbeach Water Park bid, which has been referred back for further information, that is going to be getting the necessary support and guarantees from Fenland District Council so that we can manage to move forwards and bring that forward again for the next meeting of the combined authority, together with several other projects which are going to be coming forward from Fenland. So extremely grateful to the Mayor for this particular initiative, and we will do the very best we can to ensure that it pays off within our local communities and contributes towards both recovery as far as COVID-19 is concerned, but also general economic growth in the area.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. So I welcome these projects and support everything Councillor Bowden said, some of them are decades overdue in reality. I have brought this up before about the strength and quality of partnership working of this body with town councils, and I'm still hearing anecdotally that there's room for improvement. I won't in a public meeting say where. I'm happy to share that offline. But I think we need to be making particular efforts to make sure that we are delivering these projects with high quality, productive partnerships, because it'll benefit everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you. I recognise what Councillor Smith is saying. I think some of these in particular have been brought forward quite rapidly because of the nature of them in terms of COVID recovery elements. I think the Whittlesea Heritage Centre sounds absolutely amazing, really exciting. I wish you the very best of luck with that project. Fantastic. I mean, what a find that was. It was incredible. Just very briefly, just wanted to, the Ely and Soham bids very much move us on. The District Council made an investment in free public Wi-Fi in all three of our market town centres. And the bids around public Wi-Fi are looking to move that on quite significantly and widen that access. It's really, really important. And yet, our high streets are in desperate need of improvement, and we're looking to do work to help guide, future town centre recovery and innovation. We're looking, very much to the future and what we can do to sort of nurture new businesses and support businesses and look at more innovative ways of doing that. So that's an important element of what our bids that we've put in. And the Steeple Row enhancement scheme as something that has been by the people of Ely long for a very long time. I've been involved in it for probably about 3 or 4 years as the local county council member, and this will actually make it happen now. We've got significant funds towards it, but this is actually going to get it over the line and deliver it and make a real difference to what at the moment it should be an amazing entrance into the city of Ely, and it's pretty appalling currently, and I think this will make a huge difference. And I did just want to speak up on behalf of the Littleport project, which actually has been the longest going project and hasn't made it to this round because more information was required. It's a pretty major infrastructure project that's required to bring new jobs and support jobs growth, and actually desperately needed long overdue infrastructure in Littleport, which has seen significant housing growth without the infrastructure to support it, and it will be coming back. And it was purely a matter of some more technical information that was required, I think, for that project. So I really hope that these bids will get unanimous support today. And I want to thank the Combined Authority and the Mayor very, very much for this investment, which is incredibly welcome.
Thank you very much. I have no further speakers. So do I have a proposer for this item, please? Councillor Bailey, and a seconder, please, Councillor Bowden. I will go through. Mr. Adams?
Yes, very much support.
Councillor Bailey?
Support.
Councillor Bowden?
Support.
Councillor Count?
Support.
Councillor Herbert?
Support.
Councillor Holditch?
Sorry, support.
And Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. And we move on to item 4.6, the devolution deal, gain share gateway review and combined authority prospectus. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee have 14 questions on the report, so I propose to take some of the questions later together. Some of the later questions together. Councillor Prey, would you begin with the first question on this item?
The first question on this item is on they're all on Appendix 1, and the first question is on the first row of Appendix 1. Are we realistically still considering doubling GVA?
Yeah, okay. Well, we were ahead of the trajectory to require to double GVA when the COVID shock took place. There are 22 years of the devolution deal to go, and every prospect the economy can recover recent momentum and get back on trajectory over that time. The fundamental competitive advantage that made Cambridgeshire and Peterborough one of the UK's global economic assets remain intact. Next question.
So the answer is yes.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
Okay, thank you. Second question is on item 4 in Appendix 1. When will material be placed in the public domain arising from the work of the Public Sector Reform Commission?
Yes, we're still discussion with the Commission to enable findings from this work to be published very soon.
Okay, thank you. Question 3, is that?
Yes, of course, Councillor Bray.
And sorry, you were talking about gathering questions together. I didn't know.
We're going to do these ones up until 1.18, and then from 1.14, then we're going to gather them together. So I'll let you go until the next 2 questions or the next 3 questions, and then I will take the next questions after that together. Sorry for not being clear, Councillor Bray.
Thank you. On row 6 of Appendix 1 then is, how does the board define world-class connectivity, and how will we know something is world-class?
The Combined Authorities Programme of Infrastructure Improvements, such as the CAM, is based on the new technology and innovative design, including requirements for digital infrastructure and net zero compatibility. It is intended to sustain the international competitiveness of the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough economy. The acid test and the benchmark of whether our investments are world-class is whether our area continues to attract global investors in the future.
Thank you. That's something we will obviously want to take back at overview and scrutiny and consider how we monitor that. Next question is on row 14, which is, when will the Joint Assets Board be established?
Okay, I will come back to that question. So if you'd move on to the next one.
I'm sorry, what was your...
I will come back to that question, but if you move on to the next one.
Okay, the next question then is on row 18. When will the impasse be resolved in terms of holding back £45 million of the 100 million housing fund? If this is not resolved, how will this affect the delivery of the commitment? When will it be made clear whether March 2021 or March 2022 that is the end date for the £100 million scheme?
Yeah, so I did allude to this earlier, of course, but we've received no indication from MHCLG that will not receive the money or funding for the remainder of our housing programme. I met with Luke Hall, MP, Minister of State for Housing, Community and Local Government last week to update him on the Combined Authorities work to spearhead our innovatively exciting regional housing programme. The Minister was supportive, as I mentioned earlier, of the Combined Authorities approach, and confirmed decisions from the review with MHCLG were imminent. So we are waiting and expecting confirmation of that sometime in the next few days and weeks. And I'll take the next questions together, please.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I was trying to pick an answer out of that, and I think what you said was that it'll take some weeks before we
I think I said we would expect an answer in the next few days.
In the next few days.
As I said, we've met with the Minister. He has agreed to I hope, to bring it forward fairly quickly. And as I said, that's an ongoing situation.
Okay, thank you. And then, I'm sorry, you wanted to take the remaining questions?
Yes, please. Yes,
all right. And then come back to the Joint Assets Board.
Yes, well, I think that's one of the questions that is part of this list. So
thank you. Thank you. Next question then is at row 34, that this is not as yet implemented, and can the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have an update, please? 35, what are the Combined Authorities' expectations for a second devolution deal? On row 39, what's happening on the government's proposals on business rate reform, and what are the implications for the Combined Authority of the government not proceeding? On row 41, what is happening on the devolution of strategic planning powers to the Mayor? Row 43, what's happening on forming an education committee with the Regional Schools Commissioner and other education stakeholders? Row 46, what's happening on the work with government to explore a more integrated pathway of service delivery for the causes of offending behaviour early to reduce the use of courts and prisons? And I'm sorry, I quote that cell as it stands, but it doesn't make any grammatical sense. So some clarity on what that actually is would help. row 53, could the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have an update on the work with local partners to consider how best to establish a subnational transport body? Row 58, does this commitment now refer to the government white paper on planning for the future or to something entirely different? And finally, on row 69, the DFE did not include the combined authority in area reviews as the process was considerably advanced by the time the combined authority was established in March 2017. The last of the area reviews were concluded in August 2017, but this commitment is described as not yet implemented by government. Could the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have an update on what the combined authority expects to happen to that commitment now?
Yes, thank you. So the summary updates on these items, Councillor Dupre, are provided in Appendix 1 to the board paper, which ONS Committee considered earlier this week. The board is being invited to begin regular process reporting on the devolution deal commitments, which have not been yet been implemented, and that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee will be involved in that regular update process. That's why we group those together. Okay.
I'm not clear the question, but I will come back to officers separately on that for clarification. And the Joint Assets Board, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's the same answer, Councillor Dupre.
I will ensure that our committee picks that up and seeks clarification.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Paul Rains, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. So that set of questions actually has by itself explored some of the issues that this paper is about. So we are 3 and a bit years into the 30-year programme set out by the devolution deal. The headline for that was a 25-year growth target, which, as the paper makes clear, we were actually on track to over-deliver before the COVID shock. I've just plugged into a spreadsheet the growth path that the Chancellor's announced as the Treasury's forecast for the next couple of years. And as the Mayor said in his answer to Councillor Dupre, just as a piece of arithmetic, if we were to keep going on the kind of trajectory that we were on, then doubling is definitely a most realistic objective still over the remaining 22 years of the growth deal, of the devolution deal period. But obviously, in order to do that, we've got to deliver the programme of investments that are there to facilitate growth, and picking up on a point that Councillor Bowden made under a previous item, facilitate growth in a way that spreads growth around the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough area and achieves our own local levelling up agenda. The board a couple of years ago, in the autumn of 2018, asked us to prioritise our programme. And so since then, we have very much been reporting against a very focused key project list set out in the annual business plan. But quite rightly, at this stage of the development of the devolution deal, board members have now asked us to look back at the whole devolution deal programme and assess progress against that. And so that's in Annex 1 of the paper you've got in front of you. And what that says is there are some things which are kind of done and dusted. There are some things which we are doing, they're in progress in various ways and at various stages of their development. There are some things that have been varied by agreement that the board has decided to do differently, or we've agreed with the government to do differently. And then there's a small set of things that have not yet been done, and that's obviously where the questions from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee were focusing just now. The overall headline is that 72% of the commitments the officer workers identified in the document have been delivered. And just to provide a bit of commentary around that, if you look at the ones that have not yet been delivered, they tend to focus in the possibly more difficult territory of public service reform rather than investment projects with an economic return, which I think we have made pretty good progress on. It's worth also just remarking that the way the devolution deal is written, with the exception of its 30-year overall lifespan, the 25-year growth target, it doesn't contain targets and milestones set out in the devolution deal. So one of the things we might want to consider is the way in which we set our own targets and milestones around that. What we're recommending to you is that we should now produce an exercise of this kind once every 6 months, both to track the continuing progress of those things that are work in progress, but also then that would enable us to focus on that tail of things that have not yet made progress. We've accompanied that in this paper with two other things, one of which relates to the gateway review of the gain share fund, which we received. Now, gain share is about 13% of our overall budget. And the way, excuse me, my computer is shouting at me. The way we use gain share is that it's spread across a wide range of projects. So as that has been reviewed by independent consultants on behalf of the government, we have the opportunity to provide a contextual report. It's called a locality complementary report, which sets the wider context so that those reviewers are not left in the position of reviewing 13% of our overall programme and not understanding the wider picture. So that document we have put in front of you, and that complements the devolution deal review rather neatly. And then a third document we've put in front of you is a wider prospectus that has been put together by the combined authority officers, aiming at investors, and those might be public sector investors, those might be international investors looking at our area, that just tells the overall story of what is going on in that area. So we're asking you to agree to move to a performance management of the devolution deal on a 6-monthly basis, and to approve the complementary report for the gain share review, and to approve the prospectus. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Herbert is first to indicate. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Rains. I welcome the assessment process, particularly the matrix where we look in detail, because it was the deal that we struck with government, and along with yourself, Mayor and Councillor Count and Councillor Holditch, and in the names of those that are successors, we made commitments to government. I think Mr. Rains may have got carried away with himself there, because he said that 72% of the lines in the devolution deal have been delivered. Perhaps he might want to qualify that, because that includes our rightly focused on health and social care, where I know there's work in progress. It includes the non-statutory strategic framework, where we haven't really been making much headway, the Land Commission, which I think is the same. I know that we've changed our objectives on the Third River Crossing and also on access to Witton Airfield, but I wouldn't say that they've been delivered. And we're making great progress on the Growth Hub, but there's still funding to be secured. It's right when we say something like Soham Railway Station is in progress, but when we say in lines 62 and 63, Mayor, that work on the A47 has been completed, and in 63, work on the Wisbech March line has been completed. That isn't the case. So I really value the document, and I value the other documents. There is clearly a lot of progress, a lot of energy. I think some of the work that you've led on the University of Peterborough, and in partnership with others, and on the business work that John T. Hill's area has done, I think has been at times exceptional. But I hope that we're not going to claim, Mayor, that 72% has been delivered, because we can't evidence that.
Well, I disagree with you, Councillor Herbert, as you'd expect. When we say that our work is done, if you use the A47 for an example, or you mentioned the Third River Crossing work that we were asked to do in the devolution deal. It didn't say that the combined authority would deliver the A47. That's simply out of our range. We can't do it. It's a Highways England project. What we've delivered is the business case to deliver the A47, and it's in one of the top schemes in the country logged with Highways England. So with that, it would be completely and utterly false for you to say that that hasn't been done when it has. Equally, the Third River Crossing, the work that we were asked to do was to find out the best solution to a problem in the Huntingdon area. We looked at the Third River Crossing and we, of course, we worked on it and came up with the solution for the northern route across Huntingdon to the A141. Now, completion of the work to deliver the scheme is the next stage, but what we were asked to do in the devolution deal, we have done. So let's not muddy the waters of what the combined authority was asked to do with what it has actually achieved. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much for that. Really helpful. Should we also have a little report on the stuff that we're doing that sits outside of the devolution deal? I mean, I imagine the sort of COVID recovery work sits outside because obviously nobody predicted this, and I think that there's possibly other stuff. I don't know.
Yep, there will be, of course. Cam Metro, of course, wasn't in the devolution deal either. So I think that's entirely fair that we will look at other things apart from those that are just in the devolution deal. Yes.
Thank you. So if we could have a sort of regularly updated appendices of stuff outside the deal as well, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to support the explanation about completed versus in progress. You know, obviously, we've committed to very specific things on certain projects, and where it says completed, I think it means that we've completed what we set out to do. And I think that's a very accurate definition, and I think it's important to be clear about that. You know, we have a similar approach at the District Council where we set out our corporate objectives. They are sometimes very specific, and they are sometimes simply about lobbying other organisations to get stuff done. And you have to show that you can evidence that you've done that. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily delivering the end result of a project. So I think it's really, really important to be clear about that. And for me, it's an accurate report. And I really just wanted to hone in a little bit on the prospectus. I think it's incredibly impressive. You know, this was a utterly fledgling organisation just 3.5 years ago. It's taken on some massive pieces of work and moved things forward hugely and delivered a lot in a short time, I think. We've made huge progress on our devolution commitments. We've delivered a lot of them, made progress, and a lot more outside of that we've taken on board since those first days. And I think there's a lot of innovation in there as well, particularly around our housing agenda. We've got the 100k homes project, which is now being mimicked nationally by central government. It's an incredibly impressive product, desperately needed in the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough area, and is fantastic for particularly young people, but sadly not so much young people these days. People who are working hard and doing the right thing, but shut out of the housing market. The 40 million revolving fund, we don't need to go into it again. I think it's incredible innovation where we're, recirculating the money in perpetuity forever so that it's available at nil cost to taxpayers to deliver affordable homes forever. Community land trusts, which is absolutely putting communities in control of development in their own communities and villages and settlements, and delivering really high quality, low density infrastructure first, high levels of affordable housing, and beautiful quality schemes, and that's really ramping up now from its early days, and we're getting into big numbers of developments coming forward that way. I think it's something to be hugely proud of across our patch, and I hope that all districts will embrace it. And of course the CAM itself, which massively innovative. And I really also just wanted to commend whoever it is that has done the presentation on the prospectus, the presentation of the document, which I think is fantastic because it's crammed in a huge amount of information, but it's not crammed in because it's presented beautifully, and you can very quickly get to grips with what is on offer, what's been achieved, what we're going for, and why the combined authority exists. And it's a very impressive document. very well presented, really something to be proud of. And what a good decision that we took, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago now, to enter into devolution. You know, there were those people who didn't want to do it. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, Councillor Smith, you may not have been one of them particularly, but, you know, the Liberal Democrat group in and around Cambridgeshire didn't want to go for this because of the objection to having a directly elected mayor, which was obviously one of the requirements to enter into this devolution agreement. But actually, what a fantastic thing that we did, and I hope Councillor Smith, you know, will support now that it was a good move that we made. And look at the investment and the money that has come to our region as a result of it that we just wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think it's a really good decision that we took, and I hope, you know, that we can go from strength to strength. And I'm so happy that we did it. It was, look at the things that we've delivered as a result, and the projects that we've got in our forward agenda, enormously exciting. And the government must sit up and take notice of this prospectus, because look at what's on offer from our geography, just purely in financial terms, back into the Treasury. So something's a lot in there to be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Herbert.
I just took issue, Mayor, with the statement that Mr. Rains said, which was that 72% of the devolution deal commitments have been delivered. Yes, there is a lot. I mean, I celebrate what's been achieved. There's more lines in that devolution deal than there are numbers in the national lottery. There's a very large number of threads of work, and there's a huge amount to celebrate. But I just think if you go out to the media and say 72% of what we said we do, we've finished, it isn't the case. And I think the wording in the report is more accurate, that 72% has been delivered or in delivery. And I'm very happy to support that wording.
Well, that's your wording. Mr. Rains, would you like to come back on that?
Well, I was going to draw the board's attention exactly to the wording in the report, which Councillor Herbert has just highlighted. So that's one of the reasons why we presented the table with that column of completed and in progress. And obviously the 72% applies to completed and in progress. It's not simply completed.
Okay, thank you. Steve Count.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to try and help out with the wording as well, or make a suggestion with the wording, because I don't think that some of the wording is very helpful at the moment. I'm going to use a very specific example, the Wisbech Trail. So the Wisbech Trail and the presentation of the business case, which was script 3B, has been done. It's marked down in the table as completed, and it's referred to that, you know, this is what we agreed to do with government.
What line is it, Steve? Sorry, what line are you on?
No idea. But it's the terminology that it's completed. But if we actually look at the devolution deal, it doesn't mention a business case. What it mentions in two separate places is work with the local authorities to deliver local aspirations such as Wisbech Trail. So if we take on all of these projects, what would be more useful is to lift the words out the devolution deal document rather than a reinterpretation of what they say. And then we can truly sort of measure whether we've completed our bits or not. Now, the reason I say that, and the reason why I don't want completed against Wisbech Trail, and I'm absolutely certain you will agree with me, Mayor Palmer, is that there is no way that you want the people of Wisbech to think that you've done your bit and are now walking away from this. In fact, I know you're not, because if you look at the earlier budget papers, I'm absolutely certain that there's some more budget lines in the future against the Wisbech Trail project. So I know you've not, and I know you've got future plans for that. But if I was a simple person reading what was in front of me and it said completed, and I lived in Wisbech, I'd be very worried about what that meant. So I'd really like that to be looked at through the lens of what the original devolution deal statements were, and obviously look forward to you confirming my interpretation, James, that you are working hard as ever on delivering Wisbech Trail.
Well, absolutely, and you know, you're right. It's the business case that's been completed, as you're fully aware. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a meeting with the Rail Minister, and I can assure you, Councillor Count, that Wisbech Rail will be very high up on that agenda, along with Edenhoff Junction and country trains and the other issues that we need to discuss to improve the wider circulation of trains in our area. So I can assure you that is the case, and I do take that on board. But as I said, we have delivered on the business case, which is where we were set out, and we need to make sure that business case continues to be robust and will deliver what we need to actually get, which is the railway running into Wisbech. Okay, I have no further people indicated to speak. So I'm moving the recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holditch. And we will move to the vote on the recommendation and begin as ever with Mr. Adams.
Support.
Councillor Bailey.
Support.
Councillor Bowden.
Support.
Councillor Count.
Support.
Councillor Herbert.
Support.
Councillor Holditch.
Support.
Councillor Smith.
Support.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. And we move on to section 5. I'm aware that 1 or 2 members have to leave by 2 o'clock, so we will try and move forward as quickly as is humanly possible. Recommendations from the Transport and Infrastructure Committee to make meeting on 4th of November. Item 5.1 is the Local Transport Plan CAM sub-strategy. We have a question on this item from ONS, which we will hear now. Councillor Dupre.
Thank you. The question from Overview and Scrutiny Committee is, what does the board envisage the role of the Greater Cambridge Partnership to be in this, as that body is barely mentioned in the report?
Okay, thank you. Well, the Greater Cambridge Partnership is a partner of the CPCA in the delivery of the CAM, and the GCP is a partnership of the 3 councils who were successful in securing a city deal for their area. It, as such, is a joint committee and a delivery team set up by those 3 councils to deliver on the commitments they agreed with government. The GCP is different from the CPCA, which is a separate public authority with statutory responsibilities, primarily as local transport authority for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. In that role, the CPCA has a direct responsibility to deliver the local transport plan. The CPCA sets the strategic direction for transport schemes within the area, and the GCP delivers its schemes in accordance with that statutory plan. As the GCP does not have a strategic transport role, it does not feature within the local transport plan other than by reference to its role as a delivery partner for CAM. Okay, Tim Bellamy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board members. Mindful of time, I'm just going to do a quick recap of the paper and the positioning around the CAM LTP. So the CAM LTP sub-strategy went to the MARC Transport and Infrastructure Committee, which decided that we needed a strategy regarding CAM specifically, and this subsequently went to board. It is a component, the sub-strategy is a component part of the local transport plan, and is an element of which the individual component of the CAM will be evaluated against. It has statutory grounding, and the benchmarking which scheme forming the CAM will be considered. Following the board approval in May, the 12-week consultation was undertaken, and we've had feedback which is detailed within the report. But just to summarise, that 67% agreed with the overall objective, with only 10% agreeing with the objectives. So it was a relatively positive response. Having said that, we did receive over 500 responses around around improvement to the strategy. And these are detailed in the appendix that went to the Transport Committee. So to summarise the changes that were made subsequent following this feedback was, in the main, active travel was referenced rather than specifically cycling and walking, to look at things like e-scooters and other active modes. The map was updated because of an error that was identified. There was some minor amendment to the narrative. The programme section in itself was removed because it aligned to the policy E17. And there were changes just to add additional clarification around policy E1, E2, E15 and E17 because it was said that they were too vague, and so more detail was provided. So that's a summary of where we were. It was and the paper went to Transport Committee, and now I commend this strategy and the paper to the board.
Okay. Members, open for discussion. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. So you'll probably recall that I wasn't wildly enthusiastic at the time, which was only a month after the adoption of the full transport strategy that we then had to produce a sub-strategy, and I'm still not terribly supportive. So it was really irritating reading this. You know, I've asked so many times for tracked changes in our papers when we make amendments. And in the end, I had to email Mr. Rains yesterday to ask for details of what these amendments are. So the recommendation B is agree the amendments. But I couldn't tell from reading this, and I had one of my officers go through it as well, and she couldn't identify what these amendments were. You know, it just you know, when we're dealing with a pack that is 6 centimeters deep, you know, please make things a little bit easier for us. So I'm glad to hear that you had 500 responses, and I'm glad that I'd like to know how many of those responses, what sort of percentage of those responses suggesting changes have been accommodated into these amendments. I've also got a question about the role of the Transport Committee, because when we moved to having board meetings every 2 months, the rationale for that was that a lot of the work that we were dealing with would be being dealt with by the Housing, Skills and Transport Committees, and they would have delegated powers. And yet we seem to be getting papers coming to us. So the Transport Committee have seen this, they've approved it, and now it's coming to us. It's not normal to have that situation where things go through two committees for approval. So I think we need to have a bit of a look at what the sort of remit of the Transport Committee is. You know, is there any point in them wasting their time on this if it then comes to us in exactly the same shape or form? So I think that's what I just want to say at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, would you like to come back on?
Yeah, so with regard to the actual, the first question, Councillor Smith, in the details of the paper that went to the Transport Committee, there was a spreadsheet and a table that actually detailed each of the comments we received, whether it was positive, negative, and then what we subsequently did with each of those comments, so actually whether they were actually incorporated or they were noted, etc. So within the pack that went to the Transport Committee, they were detailed. With regard to the governance of the Transport Committee, I may defer to the monitoring officer or yourself, Mayor.
I will have to defer to the monitoring officer. So Rochelle, perhaps you could come in on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So in terms of the reference for the Transport Committee, one of the functions is to oversee the development and maintenance of the local transport plan. So that would substantiate why it's actually gone to the Transport Committee. Now, because it's because it relates to the local transport plan, under our order, it's a matter that has to be decided by the Combined Authority Board, hence why it's come to yourselves and hence why it's a 2/3 majority decision. Thank you.
Thank you,
May I just come back? So in which case, we have got to see the same papers that the Transport Committee saw. We can't be seeing a refined version of them, surely, because we've got veto on this.
Rochelle, could you come back on that?
Yeah, so in terms of what's been supplied to the board today, you have a copy of the 1.3, the Transport and Infrastructure Committee report. It is a link, so you do have sight of that report. Councillor Smith.
So if you could indulge me, Mayor, you know, it's taken me 3 days to read these reports. I do not have time to go tracking down links and things. It just, you know, this is making our life really, really difficult. So could we just have a bit of a think about how, you know, how we are all spending our time? You know, Councillor Counts already had to, you know, stand down because of pressure of work due to COVID from one of his positions. You know, we're under huge pressure here, and things need to be made a bit easy for us if we're not to sink underneath the pressure of this workload.
Yeah,
sorry for the moan.
No, there's no reason for not to moan, Councillor Smith, but point taken, and we will take that on. Councillor Herbert.
So we're in a partnership, Mayor. The Greater Cambridge Partnership has got the opportunity and the funding to deliver 4 routes which extend out and then can be built out further across Cambridgeshire. And I've yet to see what this sub-strategy adds. I'm not going to vote against it. It's most of it is vanilla. It kind of says bits and does bits, but I'm just not clear, Mayor, that it takes things forward. I hope in your steering of the Transport Committee at its emergency meeting that you follow the principle which I know others on this board support, which is that we enable progress to occur. We've got local plans to deliver, and I know you yourself are sceptical about local plans and about having too many statements and bits of paper. So I just think that this is to some extent a sidetrack, because I'm not aware that it is significantly adding to the fact that between us, Mayor, we can do wonders. We can deliver a transport network for the future, and the opportunities there and the years of work that have been put in, not just to the Camborne-Cambridge route, but to the southeast route, they're needed soon, Mayor. We need to be able to get on and sort out transport issues, not just in the south of the county, but right across the county. And we've heard lots of good progress on other things today. We need to get progress moving now, Mayor. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Herbert. Remember, though, that we have to take the general public with us as well, and we are servants first and foremost to the general public, not to process. Okay, so there are no further speakers. I move the recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bailey. Well, nobody's indicated they were voting against, so if everybody's happy, we will go forward with this.
The vote, please.
We want to vote. Okay.
Could we have a vote, please?
Yes, of course we will.
Sorry, Mayor Palmer. Sorry, can I just make one very quick point? I hadn't got my hand up quickly enough. I just wanted to talk about the fact that the document I'm just going to get the page reference number. Sorry. Page reference 344 talks about integration with emerging highway schemes, and I just wanted to make the point which I always make and therefore need to make it again. It's not just about integration, it's about future proofing, and I'm particularly alluding to the A10 upgrade project, and my vision that any future A10 should be able to have the CAM running along it if and when the CAM comes forward, and I think it just doesn't quite make it into the narrative quite often. So if that could be reflected, I'd be grateful. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. No problem at all. So are you still happy to second, Councillor Bailey? Because that's what I thought.
Yes, absolutely happy to second. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move to Mr. Adams.
Support.
Councillor Bailey.
Support.
Councillor Bowden.
Support.
Councillor Count. Doesn't see. Oh, he's out there. Sorry, I couldn't see you, Steve. Councillor Herbert.
Support.
Councillor Holditch.
Support.
And Councillor Smith.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you very much. And we move forward to item 5.2, March Area Transport Study. A minute.
Thank you, Mayor. Afternoon, board members. The paper I presented at the Transport and Infrastructure Committee provided some background in terms of where the project team has got to in terms of the quick win schemes. You recall that in March of this year, I came to committee, subsequently went to board in terms of the long list of projects that has been classed as quick win delivery for the area in March. That came out from the business case work that has been undertaken as part of the March Area Transport Strategy. So as part of that, and I guess in terms of discussion, the main approvals and recommendations that we require is that we approve the drawdown of £900,000 for the construction of the remaining quick wins, which we have two already. I understand that's on ground at the moment, or just about to start, and the rest, as shown in Appendices 1 of my committee report, shows a programme of delivery over the next 4 to 6 months. Therefore, the recommendation is for approval of £900,000 for construction.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Count, March resident, your first award.
Thank you, Mayor Palmer. I've got an incredibly long speech written thanking Councillor French, who's chaired this throughout, the District Council, who we've worked closely with, the Combined Authority, who despite assurances earlier on they have difficulties with town councils, have worked superbly well with us along all of this. There are some small issues to iron out, but I know that this meeting is running out of time, so I'm going to shred the rest of my report, say thank you, please vote for this, it's important.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Count. Councillor Bowden.
Happy to reiterate the comments just made by Councillor Count, but particularly important is that working relationship that there's been between the Combined Authority and all other authorities, from County Council through District Council, especially to Town Council. And we're extremely grateful for this. This is yet another project which started before the Combined Authority was even thought about. The Combined Authority has come along with money and has enabled us to move forwards further with this project. There's a lot more to go, a lot more to happen. And this is quite a common thing for Fenland towns, Fen towns, not just Fenland, but also within East Cambs and within Huntingdonshire, that we do have transport problems which have come about partly as a result of the increase in housing that there's been. We're told that there's going to be a lot more housing in the area in the forthcoming decade or two. And it's absolutely vital that we have the road infrastructure to be able to cope with both the housing and the industry that we will have in our area. So this is very much welcome, and we look forward to it moving forwards further in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's great news all round. So I have no further speakers. So could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Bowden and a second, Councillor Count. As nobody has spoken against or indicated that they want to, I will take that as a unanimous vote unless I see a frantic wave. No, we take that as unanimous. Thank you very much. We now consider item 5.3, which is an update on the A47 building project, proposed next steps. Anna.
Hello, sorry about the delay there.
That's okay.
Technology. The purpose of this paper is to provide an update on the A47 dualling project. By way of background, in July 2018, the Mayor met with the Chief Executive of Highways England to seek to establish these proposals within the Highways England Roads Investment Strategy 2 period for the development and design, with a view of construction commencing in RIS 3. Engagement with Highways England and DfT established that for the scheme to be considered for inclusion in RIS 2, the project would need to comply with the Highways England Project Control Framework, Stage 0. In collaboration with Highways England, these documents were produced and underwent the Highways England Stage Gate Assessment Review, successfully achieving a green status in December 2019. However, RIS 2 and the Delivery Plan 2020-2025 were published by Highways England, and disappointingly, these documents did not include the A47 dualling. Officers have continued to engage with Highways England to progress the scheme. As a result, Highways England has agreed to take forward renewed work on the A47, and those discussions have focused on the cost and approach to flooding mitigation. Highways England have also suggested that this renewed work is undertaken by them with the Combined Authority as a co-sponsor on the project board. This unusual integrated approach would ensure that the Combined Authority continues to have a key role in progressing the project, while also bringing the scheme for the first time into Highways England's work programme. And I commend this report to the board.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I just want to say that I've got no details on this, but a major upgrade to the A47 is included in the comprehensive spending review today, but we've not been contacted. That's just what has come out as part of the Chancellor's speech, so I can't give you any more details, but that's what it says. Councillor Count.
Thank you, Mayor Palmer. And just on the information we have in front of us, and obviously I don't know what's contained in the CSR. It is obviously disappointing that the A47 dualling is not progressing, and the residents of Peterborough and Cambridge and further beyond in both directions are hugely disappointed by this. I have nothing really to add in terms of detail or anything in that respect. However, I do wonder in future for all Highways England's meetings with the combined authority, whether it's on the new A47 project or the A10 project, whether we could invite Steve Cox from the Highways Authority as well to the officer meetings, that is, not the political ones. And of course, I'd love to join you, Mayor Palmer, and I'm sure John Holditch would for the political ones. But to have the Highways Authority there alongside the Transport Authority, we may bring additional insights, we may bring additional demands in some cases, and we certainly can bring a wealth of experience to those tables and those negotiations. So I'd like it if you could could ask your officers to invite mine and John Holditch's officer, so it's just one person for the two authorities, to those meetings in future.
Yeah, I think that's entirely sensible, no problems at all. Councillor Bowden.
I too, Mayor, am very disappointed about the lack of progress so far, when we thought we were getting somewhere, and yet the door was shut in our faces by Highways England. And I'm pleased that there is further dialogue going on, but we need more than dialogue. We actually need this to move forwards. And I'm a little bit concerned that well, first of all, all of this might be out of date. It may be that the CSR has come up with something which is wonderful, and we'll all be happy when we see the details. That's always possible, and I hope that's the case. But up till now, my concern has been that Highways England have authorised and have given indication that they'll continue to authorise piecemeal work done, expensive work, but piecemeal work done on the existing A47 route, without addressing the issue of dualling. And we've had the work starting very shortly on the Guyherne roundabout, for example, and it's been suggested quite strongly that in RIS3 there will be work done on the Elm Hall roundabout on the A47 to the south of Wisbech. But what is really needed is this complete dualling of the A47, whether on a different alignment from the one we've got or on the existing one, and it should be on one of the alternative alignments which have already been identified. And I just hope the CSR has produced something for us on this, because if not, the whole hope that we've got of furthering economic growth in the northern part of the combined authority area will continue to be stymied.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Councillor Bowden. I mean, the upgrades to the A47 that are happening were already planned before I was elected. I had a meeting with the Chief Executive of Highways England, and he told me that our scheme was third in the country when it came to the list of schemes to be delivered. So we've got a strong case, it's up there. So we'll look into this announcement today a bit more, but I hope to see something significantly concrete, or tarmac, shall we say, sorted out on this. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. So yes, it's very disappointing. And I see that the recommendation is to delegate responsibility to the Director of Delivery and Strategy to respond with consultation with the Transport and Infrastructure Committee. I think we as leaders and board members would probably like to have sight of that response before it goes off. Is that possible, please?
Yeah, we can make sure you're informed as to where we are with this. I think that's entirely fair. No problem at all. Okay, we are asked to note this. I believe we have noted it, noted our frustrations, and we will continue to push Highways England for improvements to that road. We move on to item 5.4, Cambridge South East Transport, Better Public Transport and Active Travel Consultation. Tim, back again.
Afternoon again, members. So the GCP are undertaking a consultation into Cambridge South East Transport and looking at the environmental impacts of that. And this scheme forms a component part of CAM, and the consultation response is due in on the 14th of December. So it was a request of the board that the delegation is sought from the board for the Director of Delivery and Strategy in consultation with the chair of the Transport Infrastructure Committee to respond to that consultation on behalf of the authority. But mindful of the point just made by Councillor Smith, I think that the response can be shared. It will need to be shared with the board as well to go forward and to help that go through the process. So I commend the paper to the board.
Okay. Comments, please. It seems that we have got such a comprehensive paper, Tim, that everybody seems very happy with that. So I'm happy to move from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? And as nobody has indicated to speak at all, I will take that as read that we are all in favour and it's unanimous vote. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
May I apologise, Mayor, that I do need to leave the meeting now, unfortunately.
Yes, I do appreciate that, Councillor Bowden, and I apologise to you all for the length of these meetings. And we will move on to the Business Board recommendations, part 6 of the agenda. Item 6.1 is Local Growth Fund Programme Management Report for November, and the report was considered by the Business Board on the 15th of September 2020. Austin Adams, would you like to comment, or are you happy for Steve Clark to introduce the report?
In the interest of time, James, I'm very happy for Steve to introduce the report, please.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board. So I'll keep it relatively brief because of time. So the report that went to the Business Board on the 10th of November carried operational updates on the Local Growth Fund progress to 16th of October. So the items they considered were the LGF annual payment, which was received on the 30th of October, the financial update on the programme, which is expenditure of 91 million to date, the quarterly gross deal return to MHCLG, and this has now been submitted by officers. Projects currently in delivery, 20 projects in delivery, 6 in pre-contract, 22 completed. The expenditure of the COVID business capital grant, 2.2 million paid out at that point, 3.2 million now to date has been paid out. But separately, the Business Board considered under that item the allocation of the remaining 2,043,000 of local growth funding because of a project, Endurance Estates, which stepped away in October. The Business Board debated 2 options to spend that money, and in the end all agreed to recommend that money being allocated to the capital grant scheme within the new business growth service. The Business Board also considered the Eastern Agritech item, which continues to date to make very good progress in terms of allocating money to projects. But there was a separate ask debated and recommended within the project, which is to ring fence a further 100,000 to roll into 2021 for completion of the project evaluation, monitoring and closeout report. The other items considered were LGF monitoring and evaluation, which continues. The evaluation report due this board was delayed and will now be brought to the next board. And there was a report on the review of our LGF processes and future pipeline building. This reported 5 areas for improvements, and the Business Board is considering those 5 areas, especially in light of any new funding that gets announced and comes, and the Getting Building Fund update, which has been previously noted in this meeting as being signed off by the Mayor, and activity has now commenced. So as to the recommendations from the Business Board to the Combined Authority, the ask is allocate the remaining £2,043,178 to the Local Growth Fund into the Growth Grants strand of the new Business Growth Service. Recommend to delegate authority to the Director of Business and Skills in consultation with the Monitoring Officer, Lead Member for Finance and Investment, Section 73 Officer, to approve launching the grant scheme. and approve the carry forward of the 100,000 of the current funding allocation to the Eastern Agritech Growth Initiative to enable closeout of the scheme, handling final claims, full programme evaluation and report during 21-22. And finally, to note all the programme updates contained in the report that went to the business board.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Comments, please, members. Councillor Smith.
All right, this is the last time before I have to leave. So can you just please confirm that by transferring local growth fund money over into the growth grants fund, that remains as capital remains as a capital growth grant, please? I'm also interested to know what size the Growing Places loan fund is, which I believe is the recyclable pot. And in the housing committee, we get given a really helpful map that shows what the spend of the housing money is geographically. It'd be really nice to have that for the local growth fund money as well, to see what the geographic spread is for the future. Thank you.
Okay, just responding on those points. I'll go backwards. The map idea I think is a great idea, and we'll take that away and have a look at that. We have had some attempts in the past at trying to pictorially show the spread of investments. We have quite a portfolio through LGF, and they are all very different. So I know that comms colleagues are developing a interactive map part of the new website, which I believe the projects may well be featured on. In terms of the Growing Places Loan Fund, the whole recycled pot, I don't actually have the current figure to hand. I will ask colleagues to pass that over to you, but it's circa around the 10 million mark, which is already earmarked to go and be used for the investment fund pot and further grants through the new business growth service.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, and sorry, I forgot the other question is definitely all capital.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. My apologies, I'm going to have to leave now, Mayor. Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, Richenda, how are we quorum-wise? We're okay at the moment?
I think perhaps it would be useful if the Deputy Monitoring Officer could just confirm that we are still quorum, please.
Thank you. I do have to leave in 4 minutes' time at the latest. I'm really sorry.
Mayor, we're going to be in quorum if we have less than 5 members, so it's important that most members can stay online as long as possible, please.
Mayor, if I may, I'll take this vote, but then I have to go.
Okay.
So sorry, it just doesn't do justice to the business board items whatsoever. I'm very concerned that they're always at the end because this happens and it's not good. And I'm very sorry to the business board.
Is it possible to adjourn the meeting?
At the dentist. Hold on, one person at a time, please.
Well, I was just asking Mayor if it's possible to adjourn and then we could reconvene because we've got business we want to finish.
We absolutely have. So when would we be able to, Rochelle, if we adjourned and reconvened, when would we be able to reconvene this meeting?
It will be at your convenience and the convenience of members, but ideally today, if we can reconvene and finish business.
Okay, well, Steve, would you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I'm desperate to get away. I'm off to have my tooth crowned. I won't be back today. So take the vote. I'm off. Sorry, I can't help any more than that. And my apologies to the business board.
It may be, Mayor, that Friday's a lesser day for some people. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if we aim to seek a time on Friday, even if it was an 8 o'clock in the morning time, I just think it would be important.
Let's take the vote so Steve can vote on this, and then let's discuss that. So I'm happy to move from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bailey, indicate by hands all those in favour. Okay, so that's unanimous. Thank you, Steve. I think the most sensible thing is that we adjourn now and we organise a time in the next 2 days where we can get together. We've got probably an hour's work, maybe slightly less, and we will get this work finished this week.
And Mayor, if we could look at monthly meetings, because the unpredictability of the business does make it difficult, and obviously that meant that people had to leave after 3.5 hours.
I do appreciate that. I will also add, you know, the quality and standard of work that you put forward and the projects that you're delivering through this board are worthy of the time that we give them, and I'm sure you're all in agreement with that. But I will adjourn this meeting now, and I will ask Rachenda to try and do the impossible task of getting us all together in the next 48 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all the
Apologies,
officers
Austin.
for all the work that was put in, and to those still standing or sitting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Apologies to Austin. Sincere apologies. It's not good.
No problems. No problems. Understood.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.